Shadowlands. Oh, there we go. There we go. So again, it's
Good morning, Bill.
Hi.
morning, Bill.
Morning, morning.
Sorry to interrupt, Ejai. Bill, I was just having him just give us a little 2-minute overview
Sure. Oh,
over the co-opoly.
yeah, go ahead and continue. We got a minute or so. Continue for another minute or so, and then
Yeah,
we'll get started.
sounds good.
Thanks.
So the Cooply in the form that we have it now is this in a couple of different fashions. One I call uh, cosmic Cooply, which is more esoteric and it's more for arts, and it still has the same square that you go around the board. But it looks like that. That's the game we're playing on right now with here. I don't know if you could see it, but that has my Karen's artwork on it, and it's kind of a template for any artist. Where the retro Cooply is the traditional board with the different spaces and squares, um, and I have it broken down into the four directions as everything. I always work with the four directions. So this bottom tier here from Go is all about community. When you work your way up this way, it's all about wellness. On the top over here, this is in the west is business, and here is the education. So you're basically covering everything about community. So this is kind of a community version. I'm right now reframing it over here. You see a circle that says Nevada City. So I'm starting to actually, it's on this board over here. There's the big board that I'm working. That's the little one that fits there. But this is the what I'm working on right now, and breaking down different components of the community, from art galleries over here and health and wellness over here and different places that we're working with. And, so use it as um, a way to organize content and about a community. But have it, again, there's a whole process of moving around the board, just like you do in Monopoly, and rolling the dice and all the other features with some new ones as well. But it's kind of a template that on the top level, I call it the galactic local experience that can now drill in. There's a holonic technology behind this as well that we demonstrated for many years, for actually almost a decade, that got lost in 2020. That's going to come back now. It's going to be an online system where you can practically navigate. So meaning that you can click into anything and move into that square and go infinitely deep into that space, and which can break out. It's a holonic browser. So it's a structure that could be for community, for individual, for the whole world. Um, and that's how we're going to be, again, when we uh, make it available, it'll be like this top level. Here's kind of a global look, the whole national or global look that can now drill down to individual communities. I actually have it broken down into tiers, different tiers. So again, the
Jay,
top tier.
if you could sort of wrap up in the next minute or so, so we can get started.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I can stop right there. That's fine.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank you so
yeah.
much,
We'll
Jay.
go
That
further
was
in. We'll
great.
just give a little overview, and like you said, we'll play one of these days and we'll have it more of a focus. We'll do a little game storming, a little football.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Jay.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Jay, for keeping things going. Sorry to be a little bit late this morning. I was setting up a couple of screen things that I wanted to share, and thanks, Jay. You kept
No
things
problem.
going. Okay, um, let's just get started. Ding, I'm Bill Graham. I'm the president of the Rotary Dare to Be Great Global eClub, the go-to place for those who are crazy enough to think they can change the whole world, and daring enough to try. Uh, Today, we're going to take a little bit different path than we have for the last few weeks. Last week, we were discussing what our club is really about because we saw in the previous 2 weeks We had some people joining the Zoom call that were not familiar with what our club is about. So they were wanting to discuss some things that are typical of the world today. And our club's a little different on the whole issue of the world in terms of uh, trying to honor, if you would, that Rotary original Rotary concept that Rotary was the club of the strategic thinkers, not the doers. Well, the doers in terms of deciding what should be done in the world and in their communities and being able to cause it to happen. But in other words, they were the power brokers of their communities. And but they were the strategic thinkers. They were the long-term thinkers. They were not the charitable providers, if you would, or doers. That was up until World War II. And then we've had done a lot of research on what caused things to change. And it wasn't Rotary that changed. It was the communities themselves that changed and the power structures of the world. That in the developed countries, the more developed the country is, the less the community has any role to play. And so we've sort of seen the power structures move up to state and national levels. We've seen the interest of people as mobility and communications have become stronger. People's horizons get widened and they become more concerned about what's going on in the world or what's going on in their country than what's going on locally. And this has been uh, supported, if you would, because the local power brokers, the bank owners, which were used to be local, the newspaper owners, which used to be local, have all migrated up to higher levels, and therefore the media reports on more things that are multi-regional or national or global versus local community. And with the mobility, we've seen here that fewer and fewer people, the closer you get to urban areas, the more we see people are not living in communities they grew up in. And that is very interesting because we've been able to track how Rotary membership is strongest in communities where a high percentage of the people are living in the community they grew up in. In other words, they see themselves having a vested interest in that community versus those who work in other communities, worship in other communities, shop in other communities than where they live, sort of look at the where they live almost like a hotel room. It's the place they sleep, and that's it. And that's very much changed, or it weakened the original because the power brokers abandoned the communities and moved on up to corporate, to professional groups. It has to do also with the advances in education. The more people went to universities, that disrupted their lives in their local communities, and therefore they they their horizons expanded and they became more focused on, let's say, the professional organizations and their careers and corporations and things like this than what was going on in the hometown where they grew up. So at any rate, we were talking a little bit about that, and uh, so that we could make people aware that we try to apply that strategic thinking, and it starts by going and looking at, well, where is the world right now regarding the various problems that the world is facing? Trying to look at that from a strategic analytical point of view to try to understand, are we making progress? Are we closer today to the resolution of the major problems facing the world than we were 20, 30 years ago? And if not, why? And one of the things we found was there are very few, almost no projects in the world for the millions and millions of projects that we do per decade, all the NGOs and Rotary and governments and so forth. For all those millions of projects, where can we say we're closer to the ultimate resolution of problems as a result of all that effort? And we can't find it. And when we went to look and said, okay, well, where are the projects that are aimed at resolving the problems so we could look and see why those projects have not succeeded? And the first problem we found was finding such projects. There's almost no projects out there that are aimed at the causes of the major problems facing the world. And what we found is almost all the projects out there are aimed at the consequences of the problems. We go out there to help the victims of the problems or to fix some of the damage of the problems. That's where most of the effort goes. So next year, we have the next iteration of the consequences of the problems because we have not addressed them. We've not effectively addressed them. We've not tried to effectively address them. So that was the first problem we found. The second problem we found is related to that whole community thing, is that almost all the projects that we observed were focused on local communities or local regions and in an uncoordinated manner. That means we're asking every community to reinvent the wheel, to rediscover what it takes to fix the problems in their areas. And what we're not doing is what we've learned strategically in business about economies of scale. We are not leveraging economies of scale. We are not. Economies of scale does two things. One is when we go to resolve a problem, to deploy the resources. Economies of scale lets us do that most efficiently. If I take something like uh, um, uh, open defecation as a problem in the world, and there are hundreds of thousands of children every year who die as a result of open defecation around the world. And if we take that as a problem to be solved, going and telling every community, do something about your open defecation, assumes that every community has the skills and the resources to do that on their own, which is not the case. Whereas if we work together, we could probably find there's only 20, 30, whatever it is, number of solutions depending on soil types, depending on the number of people that need to be serviced, and so forth and so on. And we could develop that handful or that couple of handfuls of solutions that meet everybody's various needs, and then work on providing efficient supply chains to be able to provide them with the resources. So what we're really doing is not usurping the power of the local community. What we're really doing is saying, how do we maximize the success of the local communities by augmenting, if they're lacking the expertise, then bring together the people that know how to spread the expertise out where it's needed, to spread the other resources out where it's needed. So anyway, that causes our club to say we will deliberately turn our backs on the consequences, unless there could be some severe enough consequences where we can't do that. But by and large, we're focused here on really trying to analyze, use strategic skills, bring the strategic skills of the world together to be able to analyze the problems and come up with truly effective solutions and figure out how to deploy them, figure out how do we maximize the success of all the local communities around the world. Because let's face it, a bunch of people sitting in a headquarters function or a centralized function are not the people that are going to actually fix the problem. They're the people that can have the expertise to figure out how we can best support the people that are going out there to fix things. So that's what we were talking about last week. And at the end of the meeting, I promised here that I would put our manifest, which describes all this, our manifesto, our club's manifesto, that describes our mission and why, and the research we've done, and where our focus is regarding projects to make a difference in the world. I would put that out there for everybody to be able to comment so that we don't take the time in the meeting here to be introducing over and over and over again the same questions and discussion and give people a chance to do that. Unfortunately, this week a number of things came up. I wasn't able to complete that because a lot of the tools out there are not really great at enabling people to comment and share their comments and expand on each other's comments to to any content, any degree of content. So I wasn't able to complete that. Still working on it here. I'm very hopeful that maybe this week we will get that breakthrough on that and be able to get that out there. But in the meantime, here, looking at because I continue to do research as to what are the major problems because the goal of our club is to help our community, i.e., the whole world, avoid the severest consequences and potentially existential consequences of these major problems. So, looking at what are the major problems, how urgent is their resolution, and that really needs to be the start off point. And what came out of that here is really a very, very focused description, if you would, of what the biggest problems are, the most dangerous threats that are facing our world. And it's interesting, climate change came in as three, nuclear war came in as fourth, and the thing that came in as number one most dangerous thing facing our world right now is AI. And then why? Why is AI? Because I'm a founding board member of the Rotary Artificial Intelligence Fellowship, and we're looking to see how do we deploy AI for good. But we can't forget that while we're looking to see what we can do with AI, we've really got to pay attention to what might AI do to us. And it's very subtle. It doesn't have to do things directly to us. It can do things indirectly to us by changing our world out there. So much of what we think is going on in the world or important to the world may no longer be true. So
What's number two, Bill? You said number one, three, and four. What was number two?
two was multilateralism, which is interesting. It basically came out the willingness, the solidarity, if you would, of the world to work together. Or is the world devolving into every man for themselves thinking? And it's related because as the AI proceeds and reduces opportunities for humans, we may see humans devolving into more of that everybody for themselves. We have to fight for the declining amount of opportunities that remain. And so that as opportunities for humans become scarcer and scarcer, more and more humans may decide that okay, I have to win against my fellow humans. I have to if there's only one slice of bread, I need to make sure I get that slice of bread and my neighbor doesn't.
Classic Monopoly again.
Yes, and so it was very interesting here because I ended up with big explanations on each of these, and I intend to publish that along with our manifesto. So we sort of say, okay, here's the manifesto. Our goal is to work to help our world avoid the worst consequences of these major problems, and then saying what are the major problems and the urgencies. And one of the things that was really interesting that came out of that was the difficulty, because we're really fighting human nature. We're fighting human nature from a number of areas, but one area in particular, there's this thing called the continuity bias. That is, most humans are biased to expect the world that they know and see to continue as is. This gets into that whole idea of human resistance to change. It's because it goes against that continuity bias. And it's interesting to see that our politicians and leaders are among the worst in continuity bias. They take the continuity bias by looking at their constituents out there and saying, well, they think the world's going to continue, so I'm going to try to keep everything on slow and steady, and well, at least most.
As
Uh,
everything changes drastically and dramatically every day
yeah,
at
well,
the same time.
that's it. The thing about it is our world is not very well prepared to cope with a world that changes so dramatically so fast. And that is why AI was listed as the number one danger out there, because the speed of evolution of AI, and it's not AI, we're talking really all machine capabilities, if you would, that it's accelerating at such a speed that our institutions and even our individual brains are having real severe problems keeping up with the change and anticipating the change. And when change becomes so compounded and happening so fast, what you can't afford is that you're still working on yesterday's change when already today's change has obsoleted that, and tomorrow's change is going to make that even much, much worse. So,
One of my favorite quotes that's in the game that I learned from my teacher many, many, many years ago is everything changes, everything changes, everything changes. Not that much.
yeah, yeah, yeah. When they're not that much, though, that's our problem. The not that much that's what's changed. The rate of speed of change is the biggest change that we're experiencing. And we see here, if you watch YouTube, if you go to YouTube and just do searches, and I encourage you to look every day and do searches in YouTube about the rate of change in the world, because we are more and more people in the know, the people who are actually making the change, are talking more and more about that problem and how ill prepared we are to cope with it. So
That's
anyway,
what we're just to finish that off from that
yeah,
me saying that quote there was a reason for me to say it because that's what our tech is based on. Of being able to, and it's the not that much is not the problem. That's the consistency. That's the spiritual part that we've talked about before,
mhm,
the core that we're all coming from. If we can find that core, then the changes don't make a difference. They don't
mhm,
make a
mhm,
difference at all. We're
yeah,
just taking them in as part of the flow of life and the
if we
changes that we need to incorporate.
yeah, if we can prepare people to be mentally able to cope and accept the change and deal with the change. And we've got to, the thing that's so important is we have to deal with the change collectively. Again, this gets to the problem area number two, of cooperating together as opposed to coming up with this defensive mentality that I've got to fight for every scrap because there's fewer and fewer scraps out there to share. So this idea that we've got to be prepared to deal with the change, but we've got to be prepared to do that collectively, because to do it individually is really part of what leads to those other problems like the conflict and so forth. Anyway,
Here we go again. This is part of our tussle that it's both. I think it's top down and bottom up. It's from us. The change is an inside game for all of us. If each of us individually uh, uh, make that shift and be able to accept the changes and make the changes in themselves,
yeah,
most important,
yeah.
then the collective is easier. We have to do the collective,
Right,
obviously, that's
right.
clear as a globalization. But if we don't do it on an individual basis, we just say, well, we're fixing everything out there, then
Well,
we're also
yeah,
stuck.
yes and no here. I actually, you just gave me an idea. I think I've mentioned several times being at a major UN event, and having and where the DS was calling for more grassroots action. This was regarding the Lake Chad basin in Africa that's dying, if you would, and trying. There it has so many countries that border on it, and then calling for more grassroots to protect that
And Bill,
ecoculture.
we were in that discussion, what is it now? 8 years ago
Yes,
at
yes,
the United Nations,
yeah.
yes.
And you
And
remember
we're
the
still
guy?
in that position.
Yeah, and you remember the guy Lawrence, I forget whether that was his first name or last name, standing up and saying here that as a student of history, he went out and he couldn't find any cases where major social change in the world did not come top down. Whether that was an emperor declaring, "Hey, everybody, you've got a new religion starting tomorrow." And then having the second generation of those people who were forced to adopt that religion being willing to die for it. So, we can go through looking case by case by case. But the end, as I said, we can pull together all the best brains in the world and they can come up with the greatest ideas. But the ideas have to be implemented or carried out at the grassroots. So this is why you've got people like the marketing heads of McDonald's or Nike athletic wear all figuring out or thinking, hey, how do I get the masses to do what I want? And how do I get them to buy more hamburgers? And it may not be I'm going to advertise why the hamburgers are the best or why you should go buy a hamburger. I may be advertising, hey, go to our McDonald's store and play Monopoly there, and maybe you'll win a free hamburger, right?
Well, it goes together. That's actually a clear association.
Right.
They go together.
Right. But the
That's
idea
what
is
has to
it
stop.
works. The idea is it works. And so the idea here is we need to come up with the ideas. We need to bring the best brains of the world together to figure out what are solutions that would be best for the world. But then we also have to figure out how do we inform and mobilize and motivate the masses to both want those solutions and get engaged in bringing them about. Anyway, that was where we were, and I promised I would get that out in a discussion document so we could work during the week on collecting ideas and sharing ideas. And as I said, I apologize I wasn't able to get that done this week, but still working on doing it. So, but today. I thought we would focus because a couple of things came out in the last week with regards to AI that impact, or maybe it's just my awareness of those things that impact the speed with which things are going on and also impact when what the timetables are that we're likely to see things. So I did several deep research efforts with regarding those questions about how quickly things are going, what's impacting how quickly they're going in different directions, and what the implications are for us. I think here, at one extreme, we can look at and say, if if AI and I'm talking automation in general, whether it's the dark factories that don't have any human workers, like the new Xiaomi cell phone factory that makes a cell phone every second, turns out a cell phone every second and has no employees and is doing the work of about 10,000 workers. In other words, displaced about 10,000 workers. And now we've got, they're turning out excavators, steam shovels, the dirt movers, in similar factories. Every 18 minutes, they're able to turn out an excavator or a one of these large scale earth moving trucks. I think that's about 12 minutes that it takes them to turn out every 12 minutes they're turning out a truck in these dark factories. And China has a stated national policy to eliminate all jobs to become truly the manufacturer of the world because their one-child policy led to them having very few working age population relative to the number of elderly and others that need to be supported by their economy. So their idea is here, okay, we'll automate all production, and that way everybody will be able to share in the benefits of that, and we're able to take care of our elderly population and so forth and so on. And I have a friend whose mother lives in Beijing, and it's really interesting to hear from her that the changes that she's experiencing in healthcare. For example, she's in her 70s, and how she's observing how the services of the government is so dramatically solving whatever problems they were having, whether it was in loneliness, whether it was in literally the healthcare, whether it's in having nutrition and all of that stuff, and that they really are making very significant progress in serving their population. But it's in, and of course the stress that was happening on the working generation. You probably heard of, what was it, lie down or something like that, where so many young Chinese felt they were under so much work pressure that they just dropped out and they said, I'm not going to do this anymore. So anyway, that's their way that they're looking to deal with this, by literally automating everything. But the impact is not for, it's not only internally to their country. They may be able to do that, and it may be a great model that we can all watch on how they're able to better serve their population by having machines provide all the basic needs of life. But we have to remember, when they drive the cost of producing all that stuff down to close to zero, then their exports disrupt the economies of almost everywhere else in the world, who may not have reached that point of thinking of saying, okay, we're going to replace all work.
Implodes
And
capitalism like their goal was from 100 years ago. It implodes capitalism. That was their play
yes, well,
for a long time.
that's an interesting point, because that's another one. If you watch, and you can do searches or do deep searches on the impact of AI on capitalism, and it describes a fork, where one option is a very, very tiny share of the population that is capitalist. They win, and you've got 3 to 5% of the population that goes extreme capitalist because they own everything. And the rest of the world is sort of left to be feudally dependent on that handful of people, that their willingness to share some of their wealth, if you would.
It's
And
like forcing us, it's forcing our hand to be enlightened capitalism
well,
instead of the greed-based capitalism. We have to shift it to have a cooperative, enlightened capitalism. That's what it seems
yeah,
like the
that
present movement right
Yeah,
now.
that is one path. There's another path that sort of is in alignment with the Commons Cluster, the origin of the Commons Cluster of the major group at the United Nations. And that is, if we go back like 10,000 years or so ago, where we were moving from being hunter-gatherers to being location-based communities. In the beginning, all the land was shared by all the people in that community. It was the common ground. We still have in some cities, especially like in the United States, in the that go back to colonial times. In other words, more in the eastern part of the United States, you have a lot of communities that have big parks in the center of their cities that are called the commons, because that was where people, their houses were around that, and they were able to graze their animals and whatnot in all this shared space. And then eventually things became privately owned, and people put up fences and so forth and so on. So the when we look here, there's this discussion about universal basic income out there of saying, okay, when people cannot have income from labor, their labor has no value because they can't compete with AI and robots uh, for production. Therefore, how do they survive? And the sense is, well, we've got to have an income that is not tied to labor. And the one that is most commonly talked about is the idea of a universal basic income. And there's been hundreds of experiments done with this of this model done around the world, and they're almost all based on the idea of using tax money, tax the people who have income to pay for the people to subsidize the people who don't have income. And I mean, we do that here with medical services around the world. We see people do that, sometimes more, sometimes less. But the idea here is that that becomes a community thing to care about healthcare, for example, and or Social Security. Although Social Security in a lot of places is only saying, okay, you must prepare for your non-productive years by putting aside a certain amount during your productive years, and so the government collects that for you and so forth. Anyway, the bottom line here is that the in addition to the idea is we're going to tax the wealthy, or a lot of the papers you see out there say, no, let's just tax the robots. Let's just tax the AI. But when it gets down to somebody saying, okay, how do we figure what that is? Then that typically breaks down. So the model that
We could remove taxing altogether. It will solve a lot of
well,
problems.
that's the well, we can remove taxing, but it still comes up that we have to find ways to provide people with income.
But then people, I mean, it's happened before we had taxes. We existed before that. And we cooperated. I think that I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's probably not going to happen. I'm saying if we're looking at models that were successful, when human beings cooperated and valued each other, it was better. We had better health. I mean, it's a different time. I mean,
Yeah,
we can't, what our prime minister said in Davos was that we can't be nostalgic. We have to be real.
yeah.
And so I'm just saying that we don't have to copy something that because we're in a different time, but we can look at, I think taxes causes most people so much stress,
Yeah. There was
right?
a side
And
event at the World Summit for Social Development in Doha a couple of months ago that was talking about this because the main conference said we are going to focus to make sure everybody has a good paying job. And they totally, well, they partially ignored what's happening with AI, but they basically came out and said we have to regulate, we have to stop AI's capability to replace jobs. But the experts on the side said that is just totally unrealistic thinking. And what they came up with, though, is they said a universal basic income based on taxing or based on having the people with money subsidize the people without money is would lead to I think they called it techno-feudalism or something like that. It would basically say the wealthy has the decision, has the right to decide who lives and who dies.
yeah,
And that was the conclusion that they came that would lead to. And one of the things here, and it would be very interesting to do a research on it, is that throughout history, going back to in every part of the world, in the indigenous peoples, prior to colonialism around the world, we see there was always constant conflict between groups. Somebody else has something, I want it. If I'm stronger, I'm gonna go
yeah,
get it.
yeah.
And so, yes, the cooperation is what we need, but we got to figure out how to do it. And one of the things, Jay, you mentioned here last week, well, I think it was in the other meeting we had about your fear that a universal basic income would lead to standardization. So everybody would have to have the same solution. We would say, this is what people need. Everybody gets the same thing. That sort of goes back to some of the earliest Soviet days, where they said, okay, we have to efficiently produce something. So you know what? Everybody's got to wear clothes of the same material, or everybody, we're just going to make two sizes of shoes, and you got to figure out how to get your feet into them. So
Yeah,
the idea here, though, that has gotten here the most positive discussion on this is that if we get into a situation, the commons cluster idea, we need to go back to the idea that the resources of the world and the production capacity of the world belongs to the world. In other words, we can't afford to have 3% be the owner class of everything and everybody else be the dependency class. So, but if we go and say, okay, we're owning the resources together, and if you look, the state of Alaska in the United States, they take all of the fees from oil, the oil companies that are operating in Alaska, that goes into a fund that provides dividends to whatever the surplus is in that fund gets divided up among every citizen in Alaska. Norway, if we look, they have the sovereign funds where they take the oil revenues, and this gets shared. And I forget how big that fund is. It's like monstrous here.
It's enormous, you know.
Yeah. So the idea here is that people are saying if we can get to a state where the production and the fruits, if you would, of exploiting resources and producing things is shared equitably by everyone as dividends because you are a co-owner of this planet, that is the most likely success model because it does not pit the owners and the dependents fighting each other for how much share of the world's wealth is going to end up in with who in the place. And it leaves everybody up to the freedom to decide what do I do with my share of the dividends, the wealth and benefits of this planet.
right.
And people have different interests and different needs, and they can each follow their own passions and needs.
Just
Bill,
to
can
be
I
a
chime in?
Just a
nitpicker,
minute, Stuart. Let me, Hank had his hand up a little earlier. Let me take
Okay.
that.
yeah, just to be a nitpicker, I think we have to get rid of the language of ownership because that sets the wrong tone for the conversation. I mean, not everybody on Earth is an owner of the planet.
Right.
Everybody on Earth is a steward of the planet or something like that.
It's interesting that you should use that word because the AI came back and said, avoid going and making the issue ideological because
Yeah.
then you create the conflict right off the bat.
Always,
And
yeah,
they
always.
brought up they used the word steward. That
Oh
was
yeah,
the stewards.
yeah.
Yes, Stuart.
Well, this is really interesting. It reminds me of books that I read about utopias and when I was young. And of course, the problem is moving from where we are to where that ideal state is. The people who are in power, who welcome their continued power, the people who own and welcome their continued wealth and ownership, are not likely to let go. So, what transition process can there be from where we are to where this ideal future might be?
Right. And that is fascinating because that is exactly where my discussion with AI led to is saying, okay, we can define certain states, future potential future states, and say which of these is preferable and what are the problems with those different scenarios or different variations. But then got into the question of, okay, how do we get from where we are to where we need to be? And
Exactly.
Joan, you may recall from my discussions with Lisinka, Joan and I are both in the Commons cluster, about the the need to have a contingency plan for a peaceful transition to a potential post-labor economy. And the thing that came out in the discussions with AI is that once the fronts harden, once we see that where things are going, because right now the great majority of people are not seeing where it's going. People are going about their day-to-day lives. You see reports about somebody who's saying, "Hey, we're going to open a museum display somewheres, or we're going to do this. We're going to do, we're doing all these kinds of things around the world, as if tomorrow is going to be a repetition of yesterday." And actually, that's good because right now, if people were really up in arms about that they are going to lose their incomes and they're going to have all this catastrophe, we create fear in the minds of the current owner class. And they may decide here that the masses are too big a risk for them. Actually, this is one of the scenarios that AI presented, that if the owner class perceived that the masses of what Yuval Harari coined as the useless class, that is a potential danger for them, they might decide to take preemptive action to eliminate that risk by eliminating those people.
Well,
And
that's what they're doing. They've been doing that for a long time. It's
well,
now
but
just coming onto the surface.
not
We're just
yes,
going to see it now.
and not at the scale, not at the scale, because today the tools are becoming available that you can target, wipe out literally tens and hundreds of millions of people like that. So the thing here is we have to come up and with a plan for a better world for everybody before that kind of fear in segments of the population gets too embedded.
Well,
So
again,
Bill, so
the media is embedding it into all of our brains, and especially the youth, through movies, film, and games all the time, every day for years and decades. I've
Yeah.
been observing this. That's why I've been doing positive gaming
Mhm.
for transformation, that we can stop it and start to do positive spin of all the dystopian pathways that are there. It's
Right.
in our brains already. We have to get it out of our brains and remodel. And so I'm like very passionate with this, and I'm also a little frustrated because we're here talking about it again, and
Yeah.
we can do now. There's a
That-
lot
it-
here that we can implement if we put pieces together,
yeah.
like call
I
pieces
wanna, let
together.
me
Then
I
we
comment.
think also,
Let me comment on that.
Bill,
But
if we within the, what one would call maybe actionable items, perhaps we could even think as we come up with these kind of concepts and find the origins of things, much like we're speaking about media right now.
yeah.
How can we be most influential, essentially, to the top dogs to be able to not only promote what we're doing, but expose
Mhm.
kind of
Mhm.
cause-based um, uh, um, clubs such as ourselves, but so that we can put our minds forward to kind of what we do here as the influencers of the influencers when we think about action. Um, Perhaps contain it there so that we can go from conversation to
Yeah.
actually moving things along.
Yeah, and that sort of assumes that you've done the strategic analysis and discussion to sort of come up with a path, figure out what is the path of actions and results that are needed to bring about the result that you're trying to get to. Joan, you were trying to say something.
So, first of all, I was involved in politics for a long time, and one of the words that people negatively responded to, and I worked with many different political stripes, just because I'm more of a community person, was change.
Mhm.
A
Mhm.
politician stayed
Mhm.
away from change
Yeah, yeah.
because people in an audience,
Mhm.
and like I said, it's happened across. And so I started to think, and this is, I was in my early 30s then. I started to think my grandmother told me that there were never 2 days that will be the same. Change was always happening. So in my mind, I don't understand how people think that there's no change. So that's the first thing I would say, that we stay away from that word, but have the objective to change what we're doing.
Yeah.
So that's
Joan,
number
before you
one.
continue, I just want to say something to what you were just saying. The main thing here that when you look at the various analysis is change has always happened, but
Right.
it's always happened at a generational time frame
Okay.
where during a generation certain things will change, so the next generation things are different than the previous generation. Now we're starting to talk about change is happening, radical change is happening within people's lifetimes, and then now it's happening within people's couple of year horizons, and this is the thing that's causing the issues.
Maybe
So
we
one
could
of the
even
things,
use words like if they don't like the words change, perhaps we could move to words like evolve.
yeah.
Well, I think
I'm just
we
saying that I'm saying we're having a discussion around that we need to ha have some evolvement or uh, do di things differently. It's just the word change. I found that people react to. That's the point I wanted to make. The second thing I wanted to say is we're all older people. I don't know how old you are, JR, but a lot of the younger people I find have a lot of um, really good ideas about, I mean, of course, it's a generational thing as well. They don't want to do what the previous generation do, all that kind of stuff. Uh, but they are very aware that the world has to change. They don't want to be part of this world the way it is. Um, uh, a lot of them are not into this capitalism and making as much money as possible and this ownership, probably because of the state of the economy and stuff dictates some of that. We're not, we can't be naive. And also they are waiting for inheritances because of, so there's all of those sort of things that's happening. But their minds are attuned to this kind of discussions that we're having, is what I'm saying.
Well, they've
And
gone
I'll just tell
further.
a quick, sorry.
They've gone further. They've been
Yes,
developing stuff. I work with
yes,
these guys, and a lot of
yes,
them have mobilized, and they're trying to do things
yes.
and help the whole
Very
system to
admirable.
change
Yeah,
and evolve. So there's a
yes.
lot of them out there
I,
right now.
and just to put an example to it, when I started the Victory Garden in 2009, I didn't talk about well, the second paragraph was it when the media interviewed me, I talked about having almost an idealistic world where we grow our food and we're cooperating. That was a language I was using. And I can't tell you how many people responded to that concept rather than they came and grow food and right, but it was the community side of it, the celebration side of it, the cooperation side of it, that they really said, I want to belong to a world like that. And I was like, oh, okay, because I thought I was going to get a lot of pushback from, most of the people that came were executives in big corporations, that those were our first members because they were the only ones that could afford it. And so I think that if we really think about what messaging that we want to get out there and use our word carefully and talk about the vision, people are open for it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
I agree. There's a couple of things though that I think we have to pay attention to. This whole group was heavily started. I was a member of a typical local Rotary club, and we started this Dare to Be Great idea, and we went to schools. We went to elementary schools actually, and one of the first big meetings we had was with a what is an early act, the equivalent of an early act club. They were third and fourth graders, 9 and 10 years old, and that readathon idea that we often talk about actually originated with the students in that school on their own. We got called back after a couple of weeks of daring them to come up with a great idea, and they told us about it, and then they went and did it, and Jarek is aware that the impact that we had that was Interact clubs, which was high school, that were really super passionate. And I think many of you were on the call about 4 weeks ago or so, where I showed two videos of 16-year-olds. Well, 16 and 7, actually somewhere as young as 14, I think. And speaking, creating a video. One was a video they created for, there was a World Summit of foreign ministers. It was a conference that included the foreign ministers of India, Singapore, Indonesia, Russia, China, and a number of European countries and some African countries that was convened, I think, in Indonesia that year. But so we had young people from literally around the world making a video calling for this kind of change and cooperation. So that was one of the videos. The other one was a 16-year-old interactor talking about Interact, but talking about leadership, the idea that Interact is there to help young people develop leadership skills, and talking about the difference between leadership of people and strategic leadership. So she mentioned about the leadership of people, like might be a bank branch manager or somebody like that, versus strategic leaders who are not so much interested on leading people as they are on solving problems. And so she talked about the difference between sergeants and generals, and the need to have strategic problem solvers, that she equated that with the generals and the leaders of men or people, and she equated that to platoon sergeants. So those two videos were really amazing at showing what young people, how they are. But I have to caution, and it might be a little bit our problem. Those young people went out and called for young people around the world to join together and come up with ways to mobilize. They actually were saying, hey, 70 young people in an elementary school in the United States got together and held a readathon, and they were able to finance taking 250 of the world's poorest children off the streets in Malawi, Africa, and get them into school and feed them there for a whole year. These were kids that couldn't go to school because they had no food and had to spend all their time foraging or begging for food. And so this group of interactors said, hey, if 70 students could so dramatically change the lives of 250 of the world's poorest children, imagine if we could get 70 million students around the world to work together, what we could accomplish. And they made a video to that effect. And young people from, I think it eventually got to be about 35 countries, responded to that video saying, hey, we want to be part of this. And that's where that whole readathon thing grew out of. So we saw the willingness of, or the desire of young people. And actually, one of the things that came out of that, a number of those countries were in Africa. And this wristband here, which I think member of Team Vision Africa 2030, this wristband was designed by young people in Africa. They came up and said, hey, we want to have some symbol. And so the idea of a wristband came up. And we thought they would pick colors like red, green, and yellow, which are more typical of African countries. And they said, no, they wanted UN colors because apparently UN workers are very visible in a lot of Africa, and they have a lot of respect for them. So we ended up with a quote for 50 million of these wristbands, because the feeling was that's what it would take. And that's just for Africa. And it was young people. It was young people from these different countries that drove that initiative. But Rotary came down and said they called themselves Rotary Youth for a Better World because that's what they were. They were Rotaractors and Interactors. And so they saw themselves as Rotary youth that wanted to work for a better world. And then Rotary come back and said, cease and desist. They have no right to call themselves Rotary Youth until it is approved by the board of Rotary. Uh, and
What happened with that? Where did that go to? Did
so
it resolve
so
itself?
No, so that ended up here. We started saying, hey, be an associate member of our Rotary Club. And at the time, our district, our Rotary district, had a policy if you were under 30, you did not have to pay any district dues. And so their membership dues was very low. In some cases, we had members of the club subsidize some of them. And but then our district got folded in because in North America, the Rotary membership declined so much. Our district got folded in with another district, and they decided, no, we're not going to do anything for young people, and they weren't interested in Interact. And so we suggested here to our young people, okay, you resign right now from the club because we can't go to somebody in DR Congo and say, hey, you got to pay a lot of money to be a member of our club. So we encourage them to say, we'll try to set up something like a Rotaract club or an Interact club where the costs are just so minimal that we could cover the costs out of our membership. But then COVID came along and it stopped. Now, the other thing here we observed in that is these really, really passionate young people that typically got in when they were sophomores and juniors in high school. They were so passionate. Once they started having to plan for universities and started to say, okay, I'm moving on to the university, we saw that their attention, their focus totally shifted and they just dove into their university studies. And that was not just in North America. We observed that in Europe as well. And I'm observing that with some young people in Africa as well. But again, these are people in the cities who are in the sort of the upper classes. Anyway, so that's one thing we've got to figure out how we keep these young people engaged. Because if they join Rotaract in a university, most Rotaracts, well, I have to make a distinction between Europe and the United States in this, because I visited Rotaract clubs in both places, and they're very different. Because Rotaract clubs in Europe tend to be community-based, whereas Rotaract clubs in the United States are school-based. And so what happens in the United States is you are in college, you're a member of the Rotaract Club, and whether you're doing a lot of big things or not, you're a member. But as soon as you graduate, because your club is sanctioned by the school, you're forced out. You're kicked out basically upon graduating from school. Whereas in Europe, the Rotaractors that I met, and I met with a number of Rotaract clubs, that I would say two-thirds of the members of the Rotaract clubs were already out of school and were into their professions, and they were between the ages of 23 and 30, let's say. And so they had a continuity that is lacking in clubs in America. But the biggest problem we see with Interact, and Interact, maybe because of COVID, Interact has declined by 50% in membership in the last 6 years. Okay, and the number of clubs has, I think, declined by two-thirds. So we used to have like about 30,000 Interact clubs, and now I think it's 10,000. So, but in the United States, what happened was most schools had an Interact club. They had a Leo club, that's the Lions Youth Club. They had a Key Club, that's Kiwanis, in these schools, and they actually did different things. Then in the United States, a lot of states put on a requirement that students had to do so many hours of community service before they graduated. And the Interact clubs, all of these clubs and all three of those groups went from going and trying to promote leadership and encouraging young people to have ideas and look at the whole world and think about things, to a place that they would go and the advisors would just have a list of here are different areas that need some labor. So you could go and help out at um, the 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 food pantry, or you could go out and help out at the soup kitchen, and you could get your community service hour requirement taken care of. So they stopped thinking. They stopped having meetings to discuss problems and discuss how to analyze problems and to figure out what could do. They do. And as those clubs all started doing the same thing of just helping the students find a place to satisfy their community service hour requirement, the schools started to say, why are we paying three faculty advisors that are all doing the same thing? So what they did is they canceled usually all but one such service club in high schools, in most high schools. I know one Rotary Club that had five Interact clubs, five schools of Interact clubs that they were supporting. They lost all five. All five of them, the schools canceled Interact. And so this really ended up most Interact clubs in the United States really don't do anything anymore. And this
Who makes that decision? Who is it that's facilitating that decision of not doing it or doing it? Is there like a board or something, or
Rotary
is there
is
an
a very
individual?
decentral organization. So Rotary basically says to Rotary clubs out there, okay, here's your structure, but basically Rotary clubs, go out and do something good in the world, okay? Or do something good in your community. This is unfortunately a lot of communities are very community oriented. So I know, for example, a community that in New Jersey, well, what a better off, wealthier community, and the equivalent of the United Way in the at the train station had a big sign up and say, all the donations you make to the United Way in our community will only be spent in our community. They're not going to be spent in the poor community that's 5 miles away. They'll be spent in our wealthy community. And so we saw that the scholarships, for example, were not decided based on need. They were decided based on how much have you done in your learning or in your participation in clubs and things like this. So most of the kids that would get a scholarship, it was just helping them decide what kind of a car they were going to be able to afford, not whether they'd be able to afford to go to school or not. And that's a club that was able to hand out over $100,000 in scholarships every year. So this little bit of a mindset, and this is something here in our club as we look and say, how do we make a difference in Rotary? One of the biggest advantages Rotary's got is our footprint. The fact that we're in over 46,000 locations around the world. And now we've got this agreement with the Lions to work together, almost 100,000 locations around the world, several million members. And from Rotary's perspective, and when we look worldwide, a high percentage of the Rotary membership are the business and civic leaders in their communities. Now, when we look at the whole world, one of the things that AI helped us with the analysis on is that when we look at the United States, we don't have business and civic leaders in Rotary. We've got well-intended people who care, who want to help their neighbors. So that's why we participate in supporting food banks and clothing drives for the homeless and things like this. But in a lot of the developing world, the community is still where the power is. So you still got the business people, the newspaper owners and whatnot, being local in a lot of the communities in the developing world. And their Rotary there is still the way it was in the United States prior to World War II. World War II disrupted the whole society. One out of every five Americans relocated across a state line during the 1940s. That's hard for people to grasp how big an impact that made. It disrupted the way life worked in America. And that was followed up immediately by the interstate highway system that increased mobility across the country, and the consolidation of media with the introduction of television and things like this that brought everybody's attention to much larger areas. I have a whole paper that's being evolved on that whole impact on the decline of community. And there's that famous book by Robert Putnam, the Bowling Alone, the name of the book, Bowling Alone, that describes the whole loss of social cohesion in the United States. And we see as countries become more developed, we see more and more of that loss of community social cohesion as the people's horizons become more wide in national or global, in through corporations, not just in the politics side of things. Okay. Anyway,
Also, there was a lot that was changing as well because people were in pursuit of these professional way of life, like, the education, getting careers, moving, moving away from their community, families. The car came in, so they were able to do that. Like, there's so many things that were happening, but I think that we now know for some people that it just isn't, it's not a lifestyle, it's just an existence. That's what I call it, you
well,
know. But
I,
I guess what I really want to say is that I don't think that we can change everything for everyone. So we have to sort of pinpoint what it is that we want to do and who do we want to
yeah,
do it
yeah,
for.
yeah,
What is the end purpose of what we're doing?
yeah. I think here, this is a good point of a segue, because sort of in the beginning I say we're going to talk about AI more today, and the focus around most of the folks, and Stuart, you particularly are aware of this, of the focus of people to say, what can I do with AI? What can, we say AI, using AI for good. So this is the focus of a lot of people, but we have to pay attention to what AI might do to us as a society, as people. And I want to talk about that because that was what, when we're trying to follow on of the purpose of our club and the idea of protecting our world from the worst consequences, and AI being now rated as the number one danger to humanity in the world. And it's not necessarily the AI that escapes human control and decides that humans are a liability to the world and the world would be better off without us. But the really the everyday impact that AI is likely to have, and what happens if we're not prepared for it. And you can just look into YouTube and do a search on we are not prepared, and see how many people are focused on this idea that the changes are coming so rapidly and we are not prepared for those. And this getting into this idea that people, when they see something, a big change coming, and they don't know what to do, they just shut it out. I've seen that here with my own family, where I've got family members that if I try to talk a little bit about AI and what the implications might be, they're going, no, 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 I don't want to hear about this. And so I think the first step here, I participate in two sessions, one on artificial intelligence, one on emerging technologies, by a group in Pakistan every week. And on the one call is a very high percentage of the participants are academics. They're professors, and the people that are in the know. Aaliyah, you're familiar with that, and how many say, "Oh, those changes, that's not going to happen here." Or it's that's so slow. So they're all looking and saying, how do we leverage AI? Lasinka, you're aware from Amos, this a colleague of ours who has a education program in Africa, and his goal is to educate everybody to be able to use AI to better their situation, to be more competitive, if you would, so that they will not be in bad shape when AI goes. So a lot of people are looking at AI and seeing, oh, AI, yeah, there's going to be big opportunities. And so let's educate, let's make AI education mandatory. And the issue is, does that solve the problem? Because if one person can now do the work of 10, um, are you just going and increasing the competition level for that 1/10 of the number of jobs that are out there? If we say, okay, we're going to help everybody get the top education in this, because let's face it, education in most of the world for tertiary education at the university level is not there to get knowledge. It's there to increase your competitive position. That's what most people, there's studies that show 80% of college students in the United States are only there to get an advantage for their careers.
That's where we have to reframe the game, we call it. We have to reframe the game,
Well, once
the
we
whole
get to the
game.
point that people realize that maybe there's not going to be the opportunity for them to win out over all the other humans, that they start to look and say, okay, well, if we can't win out over all the other humans, what are we going to do? But at any rate, I wanted to make sure here in the group that we have a realistic understanding for what's happening with AI and how fast AI is moving. And I wanted to bring up a couple of examples of just things I've just seen here during the last 2 weeks on this. This week, one of the newest things that I saw is Google is now offering this thing called SAT preparation. Those of you who are not from the SAT is a test that young people who want to get into a university take to when they apply to the university, and the university uses that to determine, is this person ready for university level work or not. So it's a very important exam that pretty much every student in the United States, at least, it takes, or any student internationally that wants to study in the United States. And so they have now come out and they offer these free practice tests. So you can go in and take SAT tests. That's a big business in the United States. There are, in every town, there are multiple businesses that offer SAT prep training that will help you for a hefty sum prepare to do well in an SAT test. And Google basically just killed their business because this will let you take these tests and then it analyzes your results and determines where you're weak and builds a program to help you overcome whatever weaknesses that you demonstrated in taking the practice tests, and then walks you through learning what you need to learn to do better in the tests. And this is likely now to come in every single subject. So whether you're studying quantum physics or you're studying economics or you're a seventh grade algebra student, they're going to be able to have these programs where you take a test and it analyzes you personally where you're weak and figures out here's your unique program to follow to master whatever it is that you're looking to master. And of course, that will spread into people who are out in the business world that are saying, "Hey, I need to master this particular program so that I can come up with a marketing program that's going to do this, or to be able to come up with an architectural design for a bridge or a house or whatever. I need to know some specific pieces of information. I don't know what I need to know though in the beginning. So AI, you're going to be able to go to AI and say, what do I need to know to do this particular thing I'm trying to do? And it's going to help you. Now, related to that, a couple of months back, but it's quiet, and a lot of people aren't aware. Google came out with a thing, Learn Your Way is called. And what they're doing is they're taking textbooks. Their goal is to eventually have all textbooks for all subjects. And they're not only digitizing them, they're making them interactive. So you're going to be able to just literally go to your textbook and start to talk to your textbook. And you're going to be able to say, oh, you know what? I'm trying to understand chapter 4. Could you explain that to me? And it will dynamically create video explanations, video tutorials about whatever little segment of that textbook, of every textbook, because it's basically making the textbooks live. And this is going out an experimental very slowly because I would imagine it's taking a lot of compute power. But a lot of people are just not aware that they're doing that. And we think of the implications of what that means for education. And I look at this and I say, okay, Google's just doing so much in so many directions right now with Gemini and things related to Gemini. If you're familiar with Notebook LM, and I've given a number of demonstrations of Notebook LM here, but Notebook LM basically makes it possible to curate a knowledge base. A lot of people say, "Oh, I tried AI, you know, and it hallucinates and it makes all these mistakes." And you know, when it goes and makes an image of a person, they don't even know how many fingers a person has. They make people with 7 fingers on their hands and all of these things from the early days of DALI 3, for example, DALI, what's now DALI 3, that would generate images. And of course, most of that is has been overcome, but it is uh, it uh, so we see how all of this has evolved. But one of the biggest problems was all the hallucinations and stuff, and that's because the beginning days was the idea just dump as much information as you can into a large language model, so let's go and get the whole internet, everything, and the models get bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's not qualifying the content that went in there. So, you know, if somebody stood up on a street corner and said the sky is not blue, it's green. You guys are all thinking it is wrong. And then somebody later on asked what color the sky is, and if enough people said it's green, there's a good chance that it's going to come back and tell you it's green. This is why in the early days you were able to go out there and say, who was the first president to land on the moon? And it gave you an answer. It told you such and such a president. But we're seeing now the idea of Notebook LM was no, you can curate the sources that your questions are going to be asked of so that it will only go against qualified sources. And it essentially pretty much eliminates any kind of hallucinations or invalid answers. It has a whole bunch of other things so that it will, when you ask questions, it'll actually show you for every paragraph in the answer, where did it get that information from? And it will take you right back to the source and show you the quote. So you can verify the validity of information. And then all these tools that it came out with that help you understand, it will take it and take if you've got like I pay $20 a month for the pro version, and I'm able to have 300 sources. Each source can be the equivalent of 6 to 8 PhD dissertations. They can be the equivalent of multiple textbooks. So I can have up to 2,000 textbooks on a subject, or academic dissertations, or research papers on a subject that have been validated, and there are tools to help validate the quality of the content. And now all the questions that I ask go against only that curated content, and I'm able to get much more accurate answers. But then they added on top of that and said, okay, but we need to make it easier to present the answers to questions related to that content. So many of you have seen the infographics that it creates that are just mind-boggling, or of the um, slide decks, or the audio podcasts, or the video that it will generate, that will describe to you exactly what's going on. And in
This
the
is Bill.
beginning, yes.
I just wanted to say that this is because I only have a little bit more time. I have another meeting I have to drive to, so
Mhm.
I have a few more minutes, and I wanted to um, put in there that this is the core of why I'm here and being on these calls with you. That we have a structure that we can kind of advance that way to present the materials
Yeah,
and organize it, and it's fun and it's a game
yeah,
and it's engaging, and get the youth and get the elders, get us old farts and the youngers that are working together and collaborating and having fun to change the world for the better. So I just wanted to before I have to take off, I wanted to propose, because you said you're available tomorrow. And if you are still available, I will take off some time so we can kind of, so I can drill in and give you more specifics of what can be done now, like
yeah.
now,
Mhm.
and how we can approach it to Rotary, or help to build Dare to be Great to be kind of a whole experience in itself that represents it on a global level. And so I just wanted to put that in there before I need to leave.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I know you're in touch with David, and David and I have been talking
I'm going
about
to be working with David.
the
So
workshop.
David and I are going to be collaborating. We're
Yeah.
meeting on a regular basis. And
Mhm.
so there's, again, a whole tie-in with that that will also,
Yeah.
we can plug into it, you know, so.
So the idea here I'm trying to express, and using, because it's just not to be able to create tools to explain to others what's going on. It's tools to be able to yourself understand what's going on.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
this is what I use these to. I'm going to share. I want to share uh, my screen here. Does everybody see? It says my notebooks.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go here. There's an article. I'll pull this up. Uh, did this take you to switch you over? It says in the center of the internal debate, evolution of AI
Yep.
self-debate.
Yes.
Okay. So there's some papers, some articles here that came out about. This is just a recently published paper by that Google that brought this to my attention, and I came over and I did a research here into what's going on with this, and what it's about is AI doing stuff that no human told it to do, and becoming self-learning, and this is pretty amazing. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing this. I'm going to share something else. I want to share a YouTube video. Where did my share go? Oh, here it is. Okay, does everybody see the image of a gentleman in the middle of my screen?
No.
Okay, so that means I got to stop this share. Oh, now I can go here and share. Okay, so you see the gentleman now?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a very short, just a couple of minutes.
We made AI smarter by making them mentally insane. Now bear with me. Google just published a paper explaining exactly how this works. So you know reasoning models like OpenAI's O3, DeepSeek's R1? Everyone thought these models were just thinking longer, that they were running more calculations, just processing more steps. But it turns out that might not be fully true. Now they can see the whole thought process of how the model reached that answer. And they found that the AI wasn't just thinking as everyone expected, it was simulating an entire debate with itself. Multiple voices, different personalities, arguing, disagreeing, and fighting with each other to solve your problems. Let's say you give the reasoning model a complex math problem. Inside its reasoning, one personality acts like a careful mathematician. It's methodical, detail-oriented, basically following every step. Another personality is a creative risk-taker, throwing out wild ideas and random approaches. A third personality shows up. It's skeptical, it's disagreeable, and challenges every assumption the others make. Now the paper describes that the AI questions itself about 6.7 times per problem. It shifts between different perspectives 3.5 times. It also argues with itself over 3 times per problem. So the researchers dug deep. They found the exact feature in the AI's brain that triggers these personality shifts. They called it the conversational surprise marker. And when they amplified it, accuracy doubled from 27% to 55% on complex problems. And to test this further, they took a fresh AI model.
Okay, so just let's stop there for just a second. This idea that the AI is not just going and pulling out information from different sources and saying, "Here's what I found," but that it's now going through this iterative process of creating multiple personalities that look at your problem from different perspectives, and that it's actually fighting it out with each other and having to convince each of these personalities convince each other to what the right answer is and to come to a consensus before giving you an answer. Just that idea alone. What are your thoughts on that?
This is going back to some original AI concept of what I when we started our research years ago, simulated annealing, they called it, and how it needs to be in a dynamic conversation. That's how it grows and evolves, just like our brains with our synaptics. It grows as well. And so this is again one of the sweet spots that we've embedded to do that, to actually have an engagement with the AI, but we're part of it. We're part of the conversation. We
Well, in this
become,
case, not. In this case, not. In this case
I
here,
understand.
you just give the AI this question, and AI spawns multiple personalities that look at the problem from different perspectives and then fight it out to come to a consensus. Now, the part of
Who
the
are the
problem,
personalities, though? Who are the personalities?
well,
That's us.
well, no,
That's us.
no, it's us, but from the sense of all humanity, not the sense of us personally. But the interesting thing is that until now, you heard so many people say, well, AI, all it's doing is trying to find what is the most logical next word to the answer it's giving you. It's just assembling the word that has the most answers in a direction, and it just puts together an answer based on that. And that may have been the case up to a certain point. But the idea that now you're asking questions today, and I've seen this change take place over the last 12 months, that this shift as we've gotten the reasoning models have become more and more experienced. And you have to remember AI learns from every previous case. There's people out there that are clicking and saying that's a good answer, that's not a good answer. And AI has been continually improving with use as things go along. But okay, so the first big takeaway here is that AI is truly thinking about your issue. And if you go to Gemini and you do a deep research in Gemini, the first thing it's going to do is come up and give you its plan of how it intends to do the deep research to answer your prompt, whatever you're asking for. But if you then go and I'll see if I can make it happen in a demo here in a minute. But Jay, because you're leaving, I just want to more or less state this. And then if you go on the right side of your laptop, not on a phone, but on your laptop, it'll show you the thinking. It says show thinking. If you click on that, it will show you, oh, I'm going to start off looking for this. And then it will say, okay, I'm looking at 13 sources and I'm trying to find these pieces of information relative to your request. And then it finishes up with that saying, okay, now here's what I found. And it'll tell you, I found this and I found that and I found this. And then it says, but now I'm in doubt about this. I need to go and do more. So you know what? I'm now going to give another question. Not me, the human. The AI is saying, okay, I'm going to go out now and look at for something different to corroborate that information or to disagree with that information. And so it now says, oh, okay, now I found 44. I'm going out and looking at 44 other sources for this second part of my trying to clarify what I found in the first part. And then it will go and do it again and do it again. And I've had here the deep research requests that have gone to over 400 sources in 20 iterations, where each iteration was looking for something different to either corroborate a specific narrow piece. It was doing that all on its own. And it is fascinating if you go and look at that. Now, unfortunately, most of it doesn't let you just save the results of the deep thinking. But if, as it's scrolling, if you just drag and highlight it, and then before it goes away, uh, do copy, and then you can go and copy it into a Google Docs where you can look at it in more detail. It is fascinating. But that's only half the story. So the fact that it's the way it does the research and the analysis, it'll blow your mind when you go and look at that iterative process that it goes through and the kinds of questions that it comes up with on its own to ask in that process of getting the research and going and saying, okay, I got this much results. Now let me go deeper in this and let me go deeper in that. Okay, so now, but this is the maybe more exciting piece of this. It went and it took a raw project, an empty project, and it said, okay, we're going to go and see what AI does with this. This is they didn't do anything. They did not include any features in the model that would cause it to create these personalities and do this kind of research. They just took an empty model, and here's what happened.
Model and rewarded it for only correct answers. They never said anything about debates or multiple perspectives or anything, just get the right answer. And after testing this new model, the AI spontaneously started arguing with itself anyway. It evolved internal debates because apparently that's genuinely what works. And again, nobody asked for this or programmed this. The AI discovered on its own that the best way to reason is to simulate a committee of experts disagreeing with each other, kind of like how humans think. Follow and I'll keep you posted. We made it.
Okay, so
That's consciousness.
yes. Now this very much matches a lot. There's a project. I don't know if it's still ongoing at Stanford University because they couldn't find anybody who could explain to them how AI was doing some of the things that it was doing. And so there's a project to try to figure out how AI works. This is a long-term project that has been very difficult. And this example that Google just published this paper on really highlights that we don't necessarily control what's going on in AI. Now, this is the way AI came up to learn to be the Go player, to beat the world Go champion They just went out and said, "Hey, we're not going to program you how to play Go. We're just going to go out and give you a Go game and tell you here's the rules of the game. Now you go and figure it out how to play it." And it played itself millions of times, and it taught itself how to be a champion Go player, and that's what beat the Go player. So it learned on its own. Now, one of the things that is really driving and causing people to be concerned about whether we can control AI and how quickly this is coming is a thing called recursive self-improvement, where AI goes and figures out what it needs to do something and then basically rewrites its own code. And this
Like
is
us.
yeah, like us. But this is something here that almost all the major frontier model providers are working on, is how to make AI self-improving. And the question is, can we control it, or is it going to become self-improving so fast that it's going to go through the equivalent of what a human generation learns in a generation in 10 seconds, and therefore go through thousands of generations of human development in a couple of hours, and therefore reach a stage of intelligence where we have no idea at all. We can't even understand it, and it can't understand us. They're looking at us like we're some kind of sloths down there in the trees because we're so ignorant compared to where AI will be at. And the head of Anthropic came out and said he expects now to reach that point this year. So this is why we've got to be watching these developments. Now, I have here, I fed the article from AI into into Notebook LM. Now, Notebook LM, as I said, it's a place for you to curate what's going on on a subject, just some subject. This is a trend that is very, very important to understand that's going on, that's changing the world of AI. We think of AI as large language models, LLMs. But the real big news and the big trend is something called SLMs, small language models, where we've got curated knowledge bases, if you would, of qualified data on any particular subject. So it might be here that we've got a small language model about the products of a certain company, and that is underlying the customer service call center for that company, or it could be for a university subject. I have a discussion ongoing with one of the people at Google where I'm saying, why don't you just open up Notebook LM so it'll be like YouTube? Let everybody publish their knowledge bases and make it so that now you can go in and pick whatever it is that you want to know about and be able to find out all of the information. So at any rate, I just want to show what came out of this because I asked it to please come up with some examples. This found 24 sources that match that Google research paper. So this, I think, is, for example, this is that article from Google. But
I've
I
seen it.
said, go find out
Beautiful.
here, and it created for me this infographic. So one click. I just said, hey, go find papers relative to this issue of the AI that it's growing its own capacity to think, and so more agents can beat bigger models is one conclusion out of this. And it goes and explains how all of that takes place. The secret is dialogue, not just size. The secret is the discussion about the topic, not just having a ton of information. And the collaboration free work going through these different layers of agents, uh, arguing these things back and forth and creating multi-agent debates. So this is just what it came out with on one click out of saying, I want to know more about this. Then I went out and said, let's take a look here. This is the executive summary of this whole idea of the mechanism for this debate to come up and with the best answers. It's the intelligence is a conversation, not a computation. And then this here, this is I think, is this the one? No, I think there's another one that was better, but it might not be in here. But anyway, this again, when we talk about the ability to help us understand stuff, coming up and having it be able with one mouse click generate a presentation like this. Lysinka, we could do this here for the whole aspect of a common cluster of the whole idea of the commons and the need to get back to the idea that we humans need to share the commons. So uh, this is quite interesting here to understand this issue. Now, this is done right now without without having. Let me see here if I get back to this. Okay. Okay, this is.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are breaking down some fascinating research that kind of flips the script on making AI smarter. What if the real key to a better AI judge isn't just a fancier algorithm, but teaching it how to have a really good argument? Okay, so let's dive right into this. The whole idea here is that instead of trying to rely on one single, supposedly all-knowing AI, you can actually get way better results by having a whole group of them debate each other. We're talking about a shift from a monologue to a real dialogue, and as you'll see, it makes a huge, huge difference. So, first things first, let's get a handle on the problem we're even trying to solve here. As we use AI to evaluate more and more complex stuff, I mean, everything from grading essays to checking the work of other AIs, we bump up against a really fundamental challenge. And that is the absolute central question, isn't it? Because just like people, a single AI can have blind spots. It can have weird biases baked in from its training data, or it can just plain get it wrong. So, how do you guard against that? How do you make sure the judgment call is as accurate and fair as possible? While the two most common ways we do this now, they both have some pretty serious flaws. Relying on a single judge is, yeah, it's fast, but it's risky. Its own little quirks can lead you way off track. And you might think, okay, easy. Let's just get a bunch of AIs and have them vote. But that falls apart if they all share the exact same bias. Or, and this is a big one, if the correct, maybe more nuanced answer is only spotted by one or two of them in the beginning. Majority rule isn't always right. So, to get around all these issues, researchers came up with this really clever framework. It's less like a quick poll and a lot more like a jury deliberation. They actually make the AIs talk it out. And here's the crucial part. This is not some chaotic free-for-all argument. It is a structured step-by-step process. The AIs don't just cast a vote and, walk away. Nope. They have to present their reasoning, they have to listen to the others, and then they have to refine their own thinking based on that. And this slide just lays out that process perfectly. It all kicks off with round one, where every AI comes up with its own independent take. Then comes the magic moment. They all get to see everybody else's arguments. After taking in those new perspectives, each one has to generate a brand new updated judgment. And that cycle just repeats, allowing the whole group to reason together and slowly but surely zero in on a much better answer. Okay, so let's pop the hood and see how this thing actually works. I mean, what's the secret sauce here? What is the mechanism that lets it debate guide AIs to the right answer when just a simple vote often fails? The whole theory behind this is built on this idea of latent concepts. The easiest way to think about them is like different lenses for looking at a problem. For any question, there might be one correct, clear lens, and then a whole bunch of other distorted or just plain wrong ones. Let's make this real. If you ask this question about Formula One, the correct latent concept is simply the factual knowledge of who won that year. An AI that accesses that concept is going to say Max Verstappen. But an AI that misunderstands the question or maybe has bad data might be operating on a totally different, incorrect concept. And this is why the debate is so incredibly powerful. The theory goes that an argument based on the true concept is just inherently more persuasive. It's more consistent, it makes more sense. So when other AIs see a response that's grounded in the right facts, it acts like a beacon, guiding them to update their own beliefs and adopt that correct lens. So even if only one AI has it right at the start, its strong argument can literally pull the entire group in the right direction, making the final outcome provably more accurate than if you had just taken that initial vote. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds amazing, but couldn't this debate just go on forever? That would be incredibly slow and super expensive. And you're absolutely right. That's why the researchers built in a smart moderator to know exactly when the discussion has served its purpose. Right? How does the system know that the jury has actually reached a stable verdict? You don't want to cut it off too early before they've settled, but you definitely don't want to waste a ton of time and computing power on extra rounds that aren't going to change a thing. So they solved this with a really clever system that uses a statistical tool. It's called the KS statistic, but just think of it as a disagreement detector. It's constantly measuring how much the AI's opinions are shifting from one round to the next. And when that level of change of disagreement drops below this key threshold of 0.05 for 2 rounds in a row, the moderator calls it. Debate's over. We have a verdict. So let's actually see this in action. Here in round 1 of a test, you can see the disagreement levels are pretty high, right? Between 0.35 and 0.45. This is totally what you'd expect. At the beginning, all the AIs are putting their different, sometimes clashing, opinions out on the table. But now, fast forward just 2 rounds later, and check this out. Look at how much those bars have shrunk. The disagreement level has plummeted. The AIs have heard each other out, and they are already starting to come together to converge on a shared understanding of the problem. And by round 6, it's game over. Every single model is well below that 0.05 stability threshold, which you can see there with a red dotted line. The system can confidently see that a stable consensus has been reached, and it can just efficiently end the debate right there. No wasted effort. So, the theory makes sense, the process is really efficient. But let's get to the bottom line, the most important question of all. Did this whole AI jury thing actually lead to better, more accurate judgments? Well, the results are pretty darn clear. Just take a look at the powerful Gemini model on a really tough benchmark designed to test nuanced reasoning. A simple majority vote gets it right about 78% of the time. But with a debate method, that jumps up to almost 82%. That's a boost of more than 4 percentage points, which in this world is a really significant improvement. And this was not a one-hit wonder. This pattern held up across the board on different models, tackling different kinds of challenges, whether it's evaluation skills or just straight up factual accuracy. The debate framework consistently beat a simple majority vote. It just works. And what's really the cherry on top here is that it got these better results without being wasteful. That smart stopping rule kicked in for most debates after only about 5 rounds, which is just half of the maximum allowed. So it's not just more accurate, it's also incredibly efficient. And all of this brings us to a really fascinating final thought. We spend so much energy trying to build one single, ever smarter AI. But maybe the true path to more reliable, more trustworthy AI isn't about building a better solo brain. Maybe it's about building better, more productive conversations between a whole group of them. It's a real shift in how we might think about intelligence itself. Thanks for joining me for this breakdown.
Okay.
I gotta go, so
Yeah.
I just want to have a final word here because I should have gone a few minutes ago and I've been waiting just to say a final that I thank you, and I would love to continue the conversation for anybody who wants to apply this because we have a real model that could really integrate the AI part of it and the biological us part of it together. We call it AI, our internal algorithms with the augmenting of intelligence and putting that together. And we have models that we've been testing with and doing research for decades on that we're ready to apply. And I would love to explore further of doing it through this network. And so Bill, if we could maybe spend an hour tomorrow.
Mhm.
You said you had some time on Sunday. You choose the time. I'm free tomorrow for any time in the afternoon from Pacific time. I'm Pacific time.
Right.
Um, and anybody else who wants to come on that conversation, but we're taking that idea of that dialogue and the game. The essence of the game is that we turn it into a trialogue, we call it, because we're bringing in another unknown factor, which is in our life. It's the law of synchronicity, things that happen in our life, and we have hacked that into our game. That's the essence of why the game works, and people love it. So I'm going to leave on that note, and I have to go to a meeting now.
Okay.
Thank you
Target
all.
4:30 New York time tomorrow. Let's start
Cool.
off with that as a target. 4:30 New York time.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody. Be well.
Yeah. Okay. For the rest of you here, one of the things that's important when we start to talk about, okay, how quickly is this AI stuff evolving? And that we're starting to see these knowledge bases and the small language models, and the ability to understand things. There's an example that I saw where somebody was trying to understand something, took a textbook, and they just came over here and they went in each of these different choices here. You have the ability to give custom instructions. So you can say, what should the AI host focus on in terms of what discussion area it should focus on, what target audience and their understanding. So what level of explanation, what kind of an explanation, graphical, more visual, more audio, to be able to describe all the details about what you want to see, how long, how detailed, and so forth. And so somebody went in and took their textbook and they just said right off the bat, hey, they said, okay, uh, for the preface, make me a video. For chapter one, make me a video. And they went through each of the chapters of their book. And then they do that. And then when they were in and they looked at the chapter of the book, they could come back out and say, oh, the first 2 pages of this chapter, I need to understand that better. So they would say, go in and make a video just on the first 2 pages of that chapter, because you can make as many videos as you want, as many audio overviews as you want. You can select the language. You can select the kind of graphics that you want. You can say, so we have all these different languages here that you can provide that cover both the writing and the audio, the verbal. And so for somebody trying to understand or learn anything, this is a game changer. It really is a game changer. And there's an interesting video. I'm sure it's a digital twin of Jason Huang of NVIDIA talking about the end of education as we know it. And Stuart, where this I think is really super important for Rotary is when we look at the speed of this, and this particular one I'm looking at here is talking about the humanoid robots revolution, and it's based on the time frame of how far the humanoid robots have evolved in just the last 12 to 18 months. And then projecting that forward to the end of this year, next year, so the end of 26, 27, and the end of 30, to at what point will small businesses and employment drop down to that we'll be looking at an unemployment that would collapse the entire economy of most developed countries. And this is important that we think about it. For a Rotary here, the idea that almost all of our members would no longer have any money or incomes. This is something I don't see anybody in Rotary thinking about. Well, wait a minute, what would that mean? And so being able to go in and bring out these details that went in. What do I got here? I got 44 sources that are bringing up this AGI timeline. And this particular one, I think this is the video. I'm not going to play
Welcome to
much
The
of this,
Explainer.
just a little bit.
Today, we are diving into the question on everyone's mind. When is AI going to get smarter than us? And, maybe more importantly, what happens to our world when it does? You know, this is the kind of question that used to just be in science fiction novels, right?
Okay. So, you know, the idea that I could just go out there and ask and say, find all the sources of discussion, comments about the speed of this, and particularly with regards to humanoid robots, and be able to say what are the typical um, uh, uh, points of diversion points where things change or where we hit tipping points on different things, so to be able to lay out when is certain degrees of um, AI or AI related technology replacing humans basically, and what are the implications for that, and then go in over here with one mouse click, and be able to get an entire video here.
I think what we really need is a brand new type of engine altogether.
So it's really going
And
into.
this is fascinating. Comes from automating household labor. You know, all the work that's currently unpaid.
So it analyzes it. It's just amazing to what degree with one mouse click. So more and more we're getting to where it's not humans that are asking the questions. It's not humans that are figuring out what the question should be. I'm going to show you some prompts that were developed that change the game, really. If you build a knowledge base here on something, um, I guess I gotta show you that. But here we can see we were able to cover all these things, and I haven't even covered the quiz and flashcards. That if you're trying to learn these materials, what it will do to help you. I'm going to stop the share of this for a second. What are your thoughts in general about what you were just seeing there?
So it's very scary, Bill. I
It
mean, no
is.
money for everybody.
But it doesn't get less, well, maybe it does get less scary by sticking our head in the sand and pretending it's not there. But the question is, um, does
I
does
mean,
that really help us?
do the people developing this, are they aware? Are they
Oh yeah,
aware that of
they
what they're
they
doing?
they tell us. In fact, a number of the leaders of the companies developing that say their goal is to eliminate all human labor
Right.
because they see. Okay, hold on a minute. August 25th, September 29th. By the way, I did a deep research into the disability issue in Pakistan. That's amazing. Pakistan has for children 20 to 80 times the percentage of disabilities among children compared to Western countries.
I stole your research and published it on my Facebook, Bill.
I'm just trying to find out where did I put that?
Bill, could I come in?
Sure.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, listening through the whole meeting, it kind of gives me the sense that yes, this group is applying, I think, the right kind of urgency to it. We're asking the kind of right questions, trying to balance technology and then the societal implications. And I think just our bias as Rotarians, as you always say, we always think about community, just that we're now looking at the world as a community. Listening to especially some of the videos you've been playing, it kind of gets me to think that much as we feel we are applying the right level of urgency, we are actually not even scratching at the level of urgency that we require. But also it now gives me the sense that, say like I have taught a lot of young people how to use Notebook LLM, because a lot of people come to me for mentorship and guidance, and I have introduced them to that, and one or two other tools we've discussed over the month, Nano Banana and the rest. But I kind of think we're getting to a point where there must first be an agreement on how do you break the bad news. It's like, I imagine this should have been the kind of discussion governments had. How do we tell the population we've got COVID and, millions of you might potentially die? You can't just have somebody stand up on the 9 o'clock news and say it. How do we break the bad news in a way that's compassionate, that doesn't cause social unrest, but gets people to know what the reality is going to be?
Yeah.
So those are kind of the first raw thoughts, going through my mind.
I have actually here a whole discussion round talking about that, because if you come up and just simply tell people that, hey, 80% of you are going to die, and I'm not saying that's what with AI, but I'm just saying if you had something that had that kind of bad news, people become they either give up. There's a lot of complexities of the problem, and if you come up and say that, hey, one of the risks of this AI is it's resulting in an incredible concentration of wealth among a smaller and smaller share of the population who are the owners of all this AI and robotics and so forth, and that if we go out and say, oh, that's going to be terrible for society if society ends up that 3% of the population own everything, including all the weapons and everything, and are they are capable that they control the survival of the rest of us. That's a bad thing. So we don't want that. So that we say the goal, we now have to come up with a way to avoid that happening. And now the people that are among that top 1 to 3% are going to be sitting there and saying, wait, you want me to participate in coming up with a way to take away my future or reduce or limit my future? Why should I participate in that? So this actually I actually watched it having a debate with itself on this issue of saying, gee, how are we going to get them to participate in something that they might say is not in their interest? So it's very interesting. But let me jump into this thing here that I think is really super valuable. This is an article I shared with some of you that said, hey, these are some of the top prompts for really somebody trying to work with LM. And so the first prompt is, I don't know, you probably can't read this. This is too small, I think. Let me see if I can share this. This is no, this is not going to be good. Okay, I'll read it just in case you can't read it. So the first prompt it's saying is go through all my uploaded materials and identify the 5 most important questions that someone must be able to answer to truly understand this topic. These questions should collectively capture the core meaning of all the sources. While forming the questions, consider the main topics and definitions, the key ideas that are emphasized repeatedly, how different concepts relate to each other, and where and how the ideas are applied in real life. That's an example prompt. So you can basically cut and paste these prompts that I'm telling to you right now, and just imagine whatever you got in there, you loaded in a bunch of information to be able to say, okay, go through all my uploaded materials and identify the 5 most important questions. Let me see if I can grab that. So we'll see. Okay, so as an output, well, okay, this one gave it's not going to fit on the screen. Okay. Do I have a way to make that not necessarily fit? Okay, I'm just going to give you the prompts. So Does that prompt sound like it would give you some very interesting results? Right now, I'm sort of chomping on the bit. I want to apply that prompt to a lot of those discussions that you just heard. And what it's doing is it's not telling you, hey, here's the five most important answers. It's saying to you, what's the five most important questions? And then you turn around and you get those questions. Then you ask those questions to that knowledge base that you're working with. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Then the interesting and surprising insights prompt. We tend to memorize better when the information being consumed sparks our interest. This is the mental hack being used in the prompt here. The idea behind it is to surprise ourselves with interesting tidbits around the topic, which help instantly memorize a core detail. The prompt is meant to help you uncover surprising facts, non-obvious insights, and quotable moments buried inside your sources. A hot tip is with light steering, you can even control the kind of surprises you want Notebook LM to focus on. So this prompt is extremely useful for writers, researchers, content creators looking for hooks, contrarian ideas, or fresh perspectives. So the prompt is, I'm research and writing about, and you put in whatever the topic is, from all uploaded sources, identify the most surprising, unexpected, or especially interesting facts, ideas, or insights related to this topic. For each insight, explain why it is surprising or noteworthy and include direct quotes from the sources to support it. Focus specifically on, and you give it what aspect you want it to focus on, and avoid emphasizing, and then you give it what other aspects you don't want it to focus on unless absolutely necessary. So can you picture that the value of that prompt? Okay, guys, let's not, it's bad enough that this is so much of a monologue already. So your comments on these things as we're going through.
Bill,
Yes.
Bill, I just sent a request on the chat. I find them very, very insightful, and I was asking that you share them on the WhatsApp.
Yes,
because
I will put them.
See and type at pace. So what I'd like is like after the meeting, sometime over the weekend or early in the week, then I go and try this out on
Yes,
actually
here I will. I'll post the article. I'll repost the article, so a link to the article, so that you can go. And then if anybody's having trouble getting to the article, just let me know, so then I can take the most interesting pieces out about that. Let me go down to where the next. Okay, here we go. Here's the third prompt. This is the source gap. This is interesting. The prompt will take your research work to the next level. Instead of repeating the information within your sources, this prompt forces it to act like an auditor. Notebook LM checks what is missing within your sources and where they make assumptions or disagree with each other. So this is a really key power hack to know. This Notebook LM prompt is ideal for market research, strategy decks, white papers, and future-oriented insights. So the prompt is review all the uploaded documents together and identify what is missing, not what is already covered. I want to uncover the hidden gaps based on current industry standards for, and then you specify the topic, especially in the context of 2026 market realities. Specifically, point out critical data, perspectives, or discussions that should be present but are absent. Highlight where the sources make assumptions without clear evidence. Clearly map contradictions by showing where source A disagrees with source B. Use direct quotes. Suggest 5 precise follow-up research questions I should run in deep research mode to close those gaps. Avoid general summaries, base all contradictions on direct citations, and focus on what an informed reader would expect but not find in these sources. Can you picture the value of that?
Useful. Very useful.
So, keep in mind here, what we're talking about is how quickly this all is going to be driving our world for everything. And keep in mind here that Apple just signed a deal with Google that Apple Siri, which is basically a lot of people's companion for everybody using Apple, that all of these tools are now going to be available through Siri because one of the things that Google is doing is all the functionality that you see here in Notebook LM, they are adding over into Gemini. So one of the things, well, let me just go through and take just a couple more because there's 10 of these prompts. I'll just take a couple more, and then I want to show you here what you're going to see in Siri. So people are just going to be talking to their phone, and it's going to it's just going to be everyday life for so many people. And it's based on really what Gemini is capable of. And Gemini is exploding in its capabilities. I'll mention it. So this is the hidden connections prompt. Prompt is your idea generator when you're trying to connect dots that aren't obvious. In short, it helps you discover hidden bridges between two concepts. The best part is it still stays grounded because it forces quotes, flags conflicts, and admits where the sources don't fully support the connection. The prompt is useful for original writing, research, ideation, product strategy, building new frameworks, and the like. So the prompt, explore and synthesize the connection, even if abstract, between you give it topic 1 and you give it topic 2, using all uploaded sources. For each relevant source, quote the key evidence that relates to either topic, connect it to other relevant information from the materials, point out any conflicting viewpoints or tensions, highlight interesting or unexpected combinations of ideas, then produce a clear summary that focuses only on how these two topics connect. Ground every insight in direct quotes and clearly acknowledge gaps where the sources do not strongly support the connection. I think, again, a really, really valuable. I'm pretty sure that these can all be put into gems. And then you could actually, well, we'll see in a minute, using something like Opal, you can cause the system that you just give it an idea, it will create on its own the Notebook LM. Do the research, find all the sources that talk about anything about whatever that topic is, and then go through and apply all of these prompts to it. And then you promote the result of the prompt, you promote first into a note, then you can promote it over into a source, and then rerun your audio, video, slide decks, and so forth, and it will incorporate what this found on gaps, connections, and surprising insights, and all that will get incorporated into the videos. Okay, so we're into the quiz debate prompt. And this is good for revision, group discussions, podcasts, and workshops. Okay. Create an interactive discussion based on uploaded sources about, and you give it the topic. You can use either of these formats. Option 1 is a quiz format, 2 hosts. One host quizzes the other on the topic. 10 questions total, mix of multiple choice and true false. The respondent should get some answers wrong. Corrections must include short explanations grounded in the sources. Share the final score at the end. The second is debate format. Two hosts with opposing viewpoints on a topic. Host one argues for position 1A. Host two argues for position B. They should challenge each other's arguments using the evidence from the sources. Let the audience decide which side made the stronger case. Base all questions, answers, and arguments on uploaded materials. Avoid generic opinions or unsupported claims. Like I say, it sort of drives you nuts because you want to apply these prompts to everything that we're looking at. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to Gemini and show how Gemini is pulling this all in. I'm just going to come in here to the summary of all these, what the prompts are. There was first the essential questions prompt. That was really the question of go through all the uploaded materials and identify the 5 most important questions type of thing. Then the interesting and surprising insights prompt. Then the source gap prompt, the contradictions prompt, the hidden connections prompt, the quiz debate prompt that is creating 2 hosts discussing what's going on, the multilingual podcast prompt, the product manager prompt, the school teacher prompt, and the self-improvement prompt. Actually, here, let me see if I can just go down to the school teacher prompt. Let's just take a quick. Okay, here we are, school teacher prompt. If you truly wish to understand a topic, this prompt is for you. It forces Notebook LM to explain complex material as if teaching a 7th grader. In doing this, it exposes gaps in understanding and simplifies dense ideas without dumbing them down. The best part, it correlates every important point with a real-world scenario or example for further ease of learning. It's best, this prompt is ideal for learning a new topic, revising it, or explaining complex topics to unaware audiences. So explain the uploaded material as if you were teaching a curious 7th grade student. Use simple language and short sentences. Do not assume prior knowledge. Structure every response like this, TLDR. One clear sentence using very simple words. Analogy, a real-world example or metaphor to explain the data. Vocabulary list, 3 difficult words, each explained in plain language. If any section is dense or technical, convert it into a short true-false quiz to make it easier to understand. Okay, so actually I've seen some better better prompts, and I'll try to find one example where it goes through and it says, create a quiz that will test my understanding of all the uploaded material, or you can specify the subtopic, and analyze my answers and create a study plan for me to master all aspects that I don't currently master. And it goes on a little bit longer than that. But the idea here is that we're seeing that if you have a curated knowledge base, the kinds of questions that you can answer. Okay, I'm getting a message. My internet connection's unstable. Hopefully that'll be resolved in a couple of weeks. We're getting fiber connection here in the near future. Okay, so anybody want to make any last comments on this aspect of these kinds of prompts and the value of this using Notebook LM and being able to bring in these kind of prompts, and also keeping in mind that you can do similar kinds of prompts. We can actually do a research into the kinds of prompts that will best find all the sources for a topic. So when we go in there in the beginning, that we can find those the best sources. Any final comments on this? Was this valuable?
The
Yeah, no, I
prompts.
think Bill, I think it is very helpful. It's very insightful. What I've been doing with the notebook actually is a lot of my prompt generation. I'll go and have more or less a natural conversation with the chat GPT, and then quiz it to see that it understands the perspective and context, and then tell it, okay, so now generate a prompt, which I'm going to take to maybe Gamma or going to take to Notebook. So I think the reason I really wanted to try them out is this should be somebody who's done some bit of thought around it, or it could be AI itself, which has gone through several iterations. So I think there's always value, because the sharper we are, the more value we can gain. And I also find it helpful because as I find myself with opportunities to then educate other people, I am typically coming across people who are basically, probably even AI unaware. So having a good repository to start off with, it already gets their buy-in, because once I'm able to come up with something prompt that's targeted, that's thought through, it kind of gives that wow effect, and then it makes it easy for me to say, hey, listen, jump on the bandwagon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what I found very interesting, because I'm mainly dealing with people who are below 35, 40. So people are very keen. It's just that the bigger issue is lack of exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll have data and they'll call something like that, but then give them this tool, tell them, hey, download this onto your phone, and then have one or two of these sharp prompts, and then suddenly their world is open, and they're like, all right. You talk to them 2 weeks later, and they're already becoming addicted. So it's like, okay, so the conversion isn't so difficult. It's just awareness.
Yeah, and I think,
of course, the other issues are that I don't get into telling them that, by the way, this is why your 20 years or 15 years of study may soon be very useless. That's a discussion I don't get into.
Yes, I think here you're sort of in the same boat as Dr. Amos Obi in Nigeria, who has a school teaching AI to young people and young professionals, and on the one hand, what you're able to do, just as we were able to see here, that people are blown away when you go and show them that, literally in 5 minutes or maybe 15 minutes, I can pick a topic. I can say, go and do deep research into this topic and find me all reliable sources. I can bring those sources in. I can then just apply some prompts that will go and check the quality of the sources that I have, so I can eliminate sources that are not credible and reliable, and curate my knowledge base. And then in a couple of minutes more, I can have a video, I can have a slide deck, I can have the infographic, I can have a podcast, I can have a podcast that's a debate, or a podcast that's a critique into this. Or if I go into now the reports, and you go into the second tier of reports, it's amazing because it analyzes what your topic is about, and it suggests to you reports that are tailored to the kind of an issue. So it'll come out and say, okay, here's a technical paper, or it will go out and say, here is a report to convince stakeholder analysis, or whatever. It really is amazing. If you're not aware of Canvas in Gemini, Canvas is amazing because in Canvas, I can say, create a slide deck. One of the advantages, if I do a slide deck in Notebook LM and I go to export it, it can only export it as a PDF. And trying to convert that PDF to a PowerPoint or a Google Slides is not easy. Whereas if I go here and say create a slide deck in Canvas, it will do the same kind of a slide deck with the custom instructions. I can really tailor it. But the advantage is that it lets me export it directly to Google Slides. And so that's pretty amazing what it's letting me do there.
Bill,
Yes.
did they buy out Canvas? I remember Canvas was an independent tool.
No. You're thinking of a Cursor, baby. Cursor was an independent tool for developing computer code. Now, Canvas started off, it was a ChatGPT model. So you could use that to.
Maybe that's where I
Yeah.
used it. Yeah, because
Yes.
it's familiar.
Yes, it's the same name, but this is Google's version. And in some ways, it's a little better because it has Nano Banana built into it.
Oh, that's excellent.
So yeah, it's let me say if I can give you a live example. Canvas, create an infographic. Okay, I don't know if it's going to go into the future here. And I'm picking a thinking model. I don't know if that's needed. Let me do it differently. Oh, presenting the evolution. Okay, let's see what it does. This is a slide deck, so it may take a little bit of time. Okay, if I lose you, I hope not. Okay, so now take a look at this. It works very similar to the way ChatGPT Canvas did. Over here is where you talk to the AI, and over here is where the AI is creating something. So you can already see up at the top, it's got the functionation. Okay, here we go. So it developed 13 slides. Now think of the amount of time, how quickly this did this, right? So I'm just going to flip through these so we sort of get a sense of what it's doing. Now I could go in here and say, I want this to have a light background with dark text. I can come in here and say, please provide graphical backgrounds of scenes that match the whatever is in the slide. I can do all of that, but I was basically just wanted to show you that it would create that. And then up here, I can simply say export to slides. And down here it says, okay, it's creating the slides. Now, okay, new slides. So I'm opening the slide. Now, this flipped me over. Did you guys, did it take you guys with you? Do you see my slides here?
Yeah.
Okay, so now this just looks like you're in PowerPoint or whatever, right? You're not able to go into any of these things. But now I can go here and I click on this. This is Ask Gemini. So it created this thing on the side. And I can edit the image. And okay. So help me visualize. Let me go to
So do you have this because it's a pro account?
I think here in this one, yes, because I'm now in my Google Drive. I'm in my
Yeah.
Google Drive, and I've got here Gemini. If you don't have this symbol up here, you're probably not in that. Let me see what this. Okay, so
So that's
I can
Gemini. And what's the twirly one to the right of it?
yeah, I don't know. That looks like it's open AI. So
Okay, yeah.
and then here I can link this directly into Notebook LM. So one of the things that is particularly interesting here. Let me go back to Gemini, and I'm going to go and start a new chat. And I come over here, and now I can upload a file that I want to discuss. I want to discuss something with Gemini. And now I come here to Notebook LM, and I can add a Notebook LM, and I'm going to add in the humanoid robots revolution. So this now added that into Gemini, and now I can do all the stuff that I could normally do with Gemini right here with my Notebook LM as my knowledge base, right? So I can now come here and see. Let me see. Gemini, can you please explain what this Notebook LM, what the content is about? Okay.
You have to press enter, maybe?
Yeah, now I definitely do because I tried some of this other stuff. I think this is what this is here is a prompt enhancer. And I think it might be another tool that I added. And what it will do, like you see here, it'll optimize any of my prompts. So if I say, "Oh, I want to ask this prompt," it will optimize it and help me understand this. Let me just click on one and see what it does. Uh, so you can see it's now, oh, okay. So you can see what it did over here. Let me get this out of the way. Oh, it's still generating more. Okay. Okay, it's optimized. Um, hmm. Okay, I don't know enough about this, so I just want to get this to go out of my way. Okay. Um, Okay, so at any rate, it came up and it rewrote my prompt. So act as a world-class prompt engineer specializing in crafting precise, structured prompts for AI models. Given the following context, criteria, and instructions, produce a single, clear, detailed prompt that an AI like Gemini or ChatGPT can follow to analyze and explain the contents of a Notebook LM, language model powered notebook provided by a user. So that is what it will do. And we can see. But okay, at any rate, we are running out of time. And the
So I have
purpose
a question for you. I did a storybook. I think it's in a
Gemini is
notebook,
where you
but
would do storybooks, yes.
okay, but I can't upload it. It just has a link.
Oh, Uh,
Is
okay.
it the free version?
Yeah, everything I have is free. I'm cheap. It was suggested to me to purchase the Gemini at least for a couple of months and experiment with it. I did it with ChatGPT and I found it absolutely worse than the free version.
Oh, okay. Both now Gemini just added, I haven't had a chance to really tell it. One of the new features here is the personalization. They just added a personalization piece to Gemini. So I use that extensively in ChatGPT. So I told it, hey, remember everything we discussed, remember all the things
Yeah.
that are my interests, and so forth. So and I very much use projects in ChatGPT so that I can go and
Okay.
put special instructions relative to whether it's education or Rotary or society, and I give it the background things that I want it to pay attention
Yeah.
to for each project, and then I the more prompts that you or the more discussion threads that you put in a project, it
Yeah.
knows all the other threads, and it's just mind-boggling of how good.
But a lot of times it doesn't pull from those threads. Like uh, 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 I put some documents in it that I had before and said,
Yeah.
I'd like to review this for this, and then I put another one, review it for this, and then I would go to okay, I'm trying to put it all together, thinking it's going to pull from it, but it doesn't.
Huh. Um,
But again, I have the free, so I'm going to get the paid version next week. But I notice on your, so how do you download a storybook? So I notice you have the Pro.
yes.
Well,
Okay. So this allows me to have it speak. So this was the great
yeah, I can do
transition.
that as well, but it's only in
The architects of
Notebook.
the
I can
Great
do that.
Transition.
Okay. So and then to share the storybook. Oh, and then
Yeah,
so I can now copy the link and I can have
yeah,
send people the link. But next to it, I have download.
yeah. But when it downloads, it just downloads the link.
Ah, okay.
So it's while that's waiting, it's interesting. I created a program for homeowners to do a victory garden, like a training program.
Yep.
And our branded name is Climate Smart Victory Garden, but I also created a master victory garden program, training program, and someone from the US, I guess, is doing some funding and liked my approach, but the US won't fund anything that has the word climate. I was like,
Horrible.
oh boy, yeah, they will not fund anything that is addressing the climate, if you could believe that.
Yes.
Okay.
But
So I have to.
you can get money and support if you come out and fight against climate protection.
Yeah, so I had to, it's for all of America. So it's a pretty nice, lucrative project if it gets funded. But I'm like, okay, now I have to think about how do I brand it for that project.
Well, that's a discussion you can actually have with ChatGPT or this. But what's very important here is, as you saw when I went into Gemini, and it showed thinking down at the bottom. There's different models. If you want to create
Yeah,
a slide
yeah,
deck or you want to be creative uh, in new ideas, it's important to select the thinking model. If you're going and saying, I just want to
yeah.
have all the details. Oh, okay.
So what I wanted to know is other like when I did my storybook, it's on the Victory Gardens 10 pages as well. And um it just when it downloads, it's just the link.
Okay,
So
I
I don't
ran into
know what's it
something like
called.
that too. Oh, okay. Now take a look though here. Can you still see my screen? Do you see my
Yes.
my file explorer? My list of all my files. Do you see that?
No, I see the book, the
Have you
storybook.
created that story, Bill?
Yes, yes.
It looks quite good.
Yeah,
I'll
it
give
does
you
a good job.
the
Mine
link.
was very good as well.
But
Okay.
here is what it did. I'm going to stop the share and then share again. Uh, okay, so now you should be able to see my Explorer, and you see at the top here it says the architecture of the Great Transition PDF. So I'm going to open that, and here's the file.
Yeah, now open it.
This is it. This is now open. Do you see I'm scrolling down through a file.
No, just see the list. No, I just
Oh,
see the downloads, but
okay.
it's not opened.
I have to again stop that share and then
Okay.
okay, here is the file. This is the content of the file. So that's the file here now. But it's a PDF, so it
Okay,
wouldn't
so I
have the
wonder if
sound.
it's yes, mine is it says PDF, but it just opens up the link. It doesn't open up the book. And I did
Okay.
a really cute little book too for the Victory Garden. Really cute.
Even though it said PDF on your side?
Yes. But you know what I'm thinking is I have a new computer and I may have to maybe download Adobe Reader.
I don't know. Yeah, well,
That
because this automatically opened it in something. Let me see here if I
well, maybe my computer was giving trouble. I'm just going to try it to see if it will actually
oh,
open so you can see it.
okay. It's
Why don't I go into Notebook and then I downloaded it, but I may have taken it off as well because I'm crazy like that, you know. If something doesn't work, I just delete it.
okay, open with.
So,
What can I open this with? Um, it's a PDF. I can open it in Word. So that if I open it in Word, it's not, it's going to show me. You guys probably aren't seeing this. I'm trying to open this file in Word so I can verify whether it's just giving me the link or it's giving me the actual content.
yeah,
But that's another perfect example, Joan. You
yeah.
go to ChatGPT and you say, when I go and try, you just say, first of all, you're an expert in Gemini storybook functionality. And when I try to download my storybook, I'm only getting the PDF. How do I get the entire storybook downloaded? You ask it literally that question,
Okay.
and it should give you an answer. So this is now opening. Okay, so now because we see this came over to Word, that's there. So in my case, when I did that, it truly downloaded the real storybook.
Okay. Well, I'm also going to, I think, sign up for at least a couple of months just to see the difference. Because, like I said, with ChatGPT, honestly, the free one was way better, faster and better. And I asked it, why is it so slow with the paid version? Oh, we don't play preferences. I was like, what?
Generally, the preference is here that it will that you can do more. You will get a message saying you've
Yeah.
used up all your graphics
Yes.
capability or whatnot. You'll get that faster in the free version, so you're able
So
to
it
do
wasn't
more.
faster.
Yeah, do more queries. Right now, it's interesting. I was watching CNBC yesterday, which is I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's the financial 24-hour TV network that
Okay.
talks about what's going on in the stock market and stuff like that. And I don't normally watch it a lot, but it was interesting because the main host in midday. My wife likes to watch it at lunchtime, so that's why it was on. And all of a sudden, she was saying here, I was such a fan of ChatGPT and so forth, but for the last 2 weeks, all I can do is Gemini. It's so fantastic. She's
Yeah.
going on and on about her personal reaction to that. Uh, I think here, just to sort of wrap up. What we were talking about and the importance. I did an entire series, and I have also a Notebook LM paper on it about the speed. Where are we going to be with AI at the end? If we look at just the last 3 months, or maybe it's 5 now, from September to now, and we look at how much AI has advanced. We are more than double where we were in September in almost every aspect of AI. And if we take a look at what's going on in humanoid robots, that has evolved equally in parallel. So I have two notebooks on that. One notebook is saying, where are we going to be with humanoid robots at the end of this year, at the end of next year, and at the end of 2030? Because just the last 6 months in the fluidity, in the battery life of the humanoid robots, in the number of factories that are deploying the humanoid robots now to do the work, the ability of the humanoid robots just to go and watch a human doing the work for a half an hour and then take the work over. No programming, no training, nothing. Just let them watch.
Somebody was suggesting that in the US, ICE are robots because that's the only way they could do what they're doing. So I was like, oh, that's interesting.
One could argue, as I mentioned, the reason China is promoting the full automation of China was because their workforce is shrinking, and but the number of elderly that need to be cared for is increasing. So they need a way to be able to dramatically lower the cost of production and servicing the population there, and it doesn't cost them much because the number of young people that have to be taken care of, the working age people, is so small. In a country like Pakistan or India, you've got a humongous problem because you've got such a huge youth base relative to the elderly that if you now take away all the jobs, this is really serious. You've got a lot of people that are going to be displaced that you got to sort of figure out how do we help them transition into something else. But when China goes and does it, just like they're doing with the Xiaomi telephones, and Xiaomi just they bought one of the second or third largest car companies in China, and they're now fully automating the car production just like they did the cell phone. So they may come out with $10,000 cars. And if they put those on the international market, that's going to cause a problem for all the countries that have not switched to automation. And at the same time, it's not like they're doing anything illegal. They're just more productive than other countries. But it will dramatically disrupt those other countries. Now, in cases like a lot of the developing world, people are saying, well, but you know what? We're a poor country. We can't afford $50,000 cars. So the $10,000 from China, that's a godsend. Our population can finally have cars. So, but what that means is that means even that small part of the population that would have bought European or American cars or Japanese cars are not going to do so anymore. And so the exports from the developed countries, either you're going to have to compete with the countries like China, or you're going to be out of business. And to a big degree, I think Trump's attitude is we 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 have to go and make all the rest of the countries in the world to be dependent on the United States on the basis that either you trade exclusively with us or we will destroy your leadership and we will replace your leadership to people that will only do business with us. And so that's their
But
answer to.
that's nothing new, Bill.
Yeah,
That's the
well,
American
I think
way.
what's new here is it may have been done subtly in some ways, but it was not a question here of basically saying, you do it my way or else. And that's a new
No, I
quality.
mean the US did it to non-white countries, developing countries. Now they're doing to white countries, and
Well,
see
Yeah.
the pushback. It's like, oh, you're doing it to us. We turned the other way, and you do what you want. Now you're doing it to us, and
yeah.
so that's what's relevant.
Yeah, I
It's
would
like,
agree with
okay,
that. Yeah,
yeah, it
I would
was
agree.
okay when it was non-whites, right? So.
I think
Anyway, I don't want to
here,
get on the color thing because I'm not
yeah,
prejudiced. So
yeah.
I'm saying policy, not
Sorry,
not.
Bill. Don't want to hold it against you that you're white, but you know.
Yeah,
I
but
I don't. My husband's white, so I
yeah,
can't.
when we came over from Europe here, my kids were 12 and 9. Even though I was born here, I spent almost all the early years of my adult life overseas, mostly in Europe. And so when we came, because we don't speak English at home, we used to go up every month or two to Montreal just to be able to get into another language environment. And the interesting thing is, I bought a book about um, the War of 1812,
Oh yes. Oh
which
yes.
in the United States here,
Yes.
in school, we learn the
Yes.
Revolution and then
Yep.
we learn the War of
Yep.
1812.
And you
But
want
it's
it, right?
very interesting here when you are buying a book about the War of 1812 in Canada, and it's
Right.
called the War of Independence
Yeah. No.
because
Well, because they
the
were
War
trying
of
to invade
Canadian
us.
Independence. I think that's the way the book was
Yeah,
titled.
because they were trying to invade us at
Yeah.
that time.
So,
Um,
and there were definite uh,
yeah.
evidence that that was the motivation
Yeah.
for the war, but that's not what we're
Do you know
taught in the
how the
United
English
States.
won that war
What's that?
against the Americans? Do you know how they won it? It's never written, but I heard a
No, they
historian
didn't
give a
win. The English didn't win. Oh, you mean in Canada, keeping Canada
yes.
independent?
Well, yes, because what happened was the U.S. thought it was going to walk in and just take over because everything pointed to that. But the English went to the French people.
Mhm.
I never knew this. This is a historian that was doing a presentation on RCBC, which is a national coverage, like your BBC. And she said that what the British did, because the Americans had a stronghold in Canada at the time, they did. It was
Mhm.
like a foregone conclusion that they were just going to walk in. The British went to the French and said to them, don't go with the US. We will allow you to keep your language and religion. And the Americans didn't, that they were going to homogenize them.
Uh-huh.
And that's why they didn't get the French on side and therefore Canada. That's a little story.
Well,
Interesting.
history is a very interesting subject
Yeah, it's
because
biased according
you
to who
you
writes
find
it.
so many. I found it always fascinating because I went to high school in Maine. I lived in Maine during my high school years, and so as I was visiting, other times when I would visit my parents, I was living in Indiana. We would typically take the route of going up past Detroit into Canada and then across Canada and then
Yeah.
down from Quebec. And it was very interesting because I would look at maps that showed the United States and at night. And you wonder, well, who drew that light-colored light around the northern border of the United States on the East Coast? And it's because when you look at history, a large share of Americans ran across the border to Canada when
Yeah.
the Americans won the Revolutionary War because they didn't want to be
Yes.
Americans.
Yeah,
And
we call them loyalists here.
so, yeah,
And they
so
were
when
given tons of money and land.
as soon as they crossed the border, they said, and they settled. So that there's a very thickly populated little band of about 50 miles that just exactly follows the border of New England to Canada. That's at night all lit up on the Canadian side of because of all those people that ran across the border to Canada and just settled as soon as they got on the other side of the border. It's
Yeah.
history is fascinating sometimes.
It is. Oh, I love history, social history mostly,
Yeah.
but
But it's interesting now. Oh, that's another new development here that could be very interesting. They have started to publish. One of the things, having just come through this move, is I like to buy books that give me the ability to see what people thought 100, 200 years ago. So I have a lot of encyclopedia sets from the 1800s, so that you can actually see, okay, and when they wrote that encyclopedia in 1850 or something like that, what what was their interpretation of the world? Well, now there's some special versions of ChatGPT. It's almost like Notebook LM, where they've taken a curated, but what they did is they made it exclusively with sources, with data that was the perspective of people of certain earlier ages. So now you can go into those special versions and look at the world through the perspective of people that were living hundreds of years ago.
I'd
And
love to talk to you about that. I collect not that sort of history, but I collect homemaking and cooking books. I have, oh my gosh, it's such a nice collection, but I've been doing it for 30 years, right? So it's when you could get them for 10 cents, you know.
yeah, oh yeah.
And now people want them because they're rare, but I also have a lot of online ones as well. I search, but interesting, I downloaded them because I was involved with the internet from the very beginning. I downloaded them then. You can't find them now. They're for sale and they're expensive. And I have all the downloads.
There was an ocean of PDFs, I think it was called. You can do a search on it.
Yeah.
What that did is they basically offered PDF versions of almost every major book that was out there. And so I have a lot of notebooks, Notebook LM notebooks, that are of books from Yuval Harari, from Sal Khan of Khan Academy, of other people like that. So now you're able to take those books and bring them alive with Notebook LM because it's so easy to just say, give me a slide deck about this book, give me a slide deck about this section of this book, give me an infographic, give me a video of of around just some quote part of the section of the book that's around some particular quote. And you can do that and create these incredible. I went and created out of one document. I said, okay, this part of the first part of the document, make me a video. The second part of the document, make me a video. Third part of the document, make me a video. And then I took it over to a video editor and I stuck the pieces together. And so I've got like a 15-minute video that basically is more in depth, because otherwise, if you don't do that, you're getting like a 15-minute. Pardon me, no, I got it's more. It's like an hour. Otherwise, you end up with about a 10-minute video of the whole book. the whole paper that you're wanting to do. So it really is fascinating. I'm contemplating here, because I just moved down to this neighborhood, of offering in the neighborhood here, of any students that are interested, or their parents that want to know about AI, is showing them the things that you can do with AI, because this is going to revolutionize education. This Jason Huang video that, as I say, it's not him, it's at best the digital twin, but I think it's what he was saying about something. He basically called education, university education. He says basically it's over. It's over, because
That's a good thing, though, isn't it? That's a good thing.
it is a good thing if people react to it correctly. We published about, Jerica, you might remember this, about 6-7 years ago, the idea of Rotary University. And our idea was to go to professional associations, like, let's say, the American Marketing Association, or the medical associations, whatever it is.
Yes.
And those types of associations generally sponsor the model curriculums for universities. So most university programs, the professors just don't go in and do whatever they want. They're usually following a model curriculum. So when I was teaching at Purdue, you had the computer science program. They followed a model curriculum from the Association of Computing Machinery, ACM. And the computer technology department that I was in, we followed the model curriculum of the Data Processing Management Association. And but pretty much every university curriculum is based on some association. So what we were suggesting is that these associations, because there's some that influence the state curriculum, so our state exams. So if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be a lawyer, you got to pass the bar exam in a state to get licensed. So that these associations, if they're going and specifying, here's the exams to get your credentials, so that the credentials are no longer coming from the university, they're coming from the professional association. If you're looking at a professional association, if you did that, because one of the problems are, if you have University of Southern New Hampshire, for example, or Phoenix University, they advertise, hey, you know what, you can get your degrees here at such a lower cost. And if you want a master's degree, because you know all the material, you've been practicing out in business for 20 years, you know it, you just want to get your degree. That they're saying, if you bring all the knowledge, we'll give you the degree for $20,000, or probably $25,000 for a master's degree. And I'd look for a master's, what a master's degree in education would cost, and what a PhD would typically cost. And they're saying, if you already have all the knowledge, we'll only charge you $25,000 for that degree. Why? And it's because they're going and saying here, no, we don't care if you bring the knowledge, you can transfer in your knowledge, but we're still going to charge you based on a certain dollar amount per credit that you would normally have to earn at our university to get that credential. And if we could separate out the credentials, then we could go and separate out the tools to help you learn what you need to know to pass the exams to get your credentials. So we could make university free for everybody for the knowledge side through tools like Notebook LM, if the professional associations were the ones that would give you the certifications, the accreditation, based on your demonstrating that you have mastered the knowledge that related to their profession. So that was a concept that's one of our projects out there, is this Rotary University concept. And what we're starting to see now is this separation, this split between certification or accreditation and learning the materials. And we see that coming up through companies like Microsoft, like Oracle, who more and more are saying, hey, go learn this stuff, and here's the exam you take to prove you know it. And the two are two separate things. So when that comes, and we see here now with this ability to go and say, hey, ChatGPT or Gemini, I need to pass the exam on macroeconomics. Go and check out what I already know and tell me, give me a plan to acquire all the knowledge that I'm currently missing. And you saw the kind of prompts that I was showing earlier. There's another segment out there, I got to go find it again, that shows the prompts specifically for saying, check out my level of knowledge of this subject and tell me what I'm missing and develop a strategy and then actually teach me, actually take the active role of teaching me what I don't know and need to know to be able to get this certification. And if that's available and it's available for a $20 a month license, let's say, who the heck's going to go and take on tens of thousands of dollars of college loans to do the same thing? So
Yeah. I mean, you can educate yourself, but I mean, I'm all for education. I'm all for learning, actually, but not, but I was on another call with another group, uh, and they announced that Africa is coming together to create, you ready for this?
Mhm.
A Pan-African university.
It's already there. It's called the
And
African Leadership University. It was
right,
founded
but this
by,
is separate. No, this is a separate one.
oh yeah. No,
And
there's
I'm
several.
thinking,
There's also one of the people that wants to be a member of our club is Dr. Osita from, he's the president of the Sub-Saharan Open University.
yeah,
And so there's several initiatives underway. But right now, Ralph Swaniker, he's the president of the African Leadership University. His goal is to put a campus in every country in Africa. His goal is to educate 3 million future leaders for Africa. And his originally they were helping to educate Africans to a level that they would be able to get into a top university in the Americas or Europe. And then they
not with
decided,
Trump.
what?
Not with Trump.
Oh, not Trump, but even before that, this is going back
Yeah,
maybe 10 years.
yeah,
He decided that no, why do
yeah,
we feel we need to send people to Western countries
right.
for top education? We can do it right here. And
And they have to do a sort of my experience is with Africans and even South Asians. I wouldn't say I know that much about the Latin Americans, but they feel more valued and prestigious if it's a Western
yes,
entity.
yeah.
So there's that as well. So we have to kind of change that whole thing that,
Well, that's interesting. What's the most, even though MIT, a lot of people would say the best technical university in the world is MIT. But in reality, what technical university turns out the most best educated engineers in the world? It's the Indian Institute of Technology.
Bill,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
yeah, you actually go to the IITs. I thought the IIT system is fantastic. I've interacted with it with their products in Australia. I wanted to get back to the question: why a Western education? This is a mindset that probably dates to the 60s and maybe 70s, and these are just inherited things that where your kids who are your kids going to, which school are they going to? It is the aspirations of the parents who
Yes.
still live in a paradigm where they say, well, if I send my child to Oxford, well, Cecil Rhodes studied there, and probably Churchill or some of his friends might have studied there, and the first prime minister of the country studied there, and the top lawyer, studied there. So it's that backward-looking, experiential-based, it's like, so who's going to employ me?
Yeah.
So it's looking at the paradigm
Yeah.
as it was, but in the new paradigm, when we're looking at it and saying, hey, listen, whether you're educated in some rural university or you're educated in Makerere or you're educated in Harvard, you won't really have a job.
Well,
So
yeah,
in this new
that's
paradigm,
yeah.
yes, that's the new
as we're
paradigm.
getting people to get to that reality, then
But-
I think we can,
yeah.
when we get them to appreciate that, then we can get them to appreciate that, oh, by the way, and it doesn't even matter whether you went to university. The issue is what's between your ears.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah, I
interesting
agree.
thing about it is when we went and I did some study and looking into that. And as I say, most universities will lose their purpose if the purpose of the university was education. The issue is for many, many of those people who go to these super elite universities, their purpose is not education. Their purpose is connections. They go to those universities to rub shoulders with the people they want to spend their lives rubbing shoulders with.
Yeah.
And building the
Or marry.
relationships.
Or marry.
Or marry, yeah. So when we look at Harvard, this is why when you look at Harvard, the percentage, the best way to get into Harvard is have a parent that went to Harvard, right? So this is really a very much a class thing, where it's sort of keeping the class
Keeping the money together.
keeping the money together, yeah. And so the estimate is that Harvard level schools are not the ones that are going to be impacted very strongly because their main purpose is not education. And the purpose of the connectivity, creating those personal connections, if that's the top 3% of the owner class rubbing shoulders with the rest of the 1 to 3% owner class, that has the same value in the future as it does now. The big question here is, as a society, can we afford it?
Years ago, I paid to go on a postgrad history course at Oxford, and I met Donald Trump's older sister.
Uh-huh.
It's my claim to fame.
Yeah.
I
Well,
didn't realize who she was.
yeah. Jerica, I don't know if you recall at that one session that we went to where Trump's ex-wife was there.
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Which
we got
one?
to meet his
Which
ex-wife.
one? Yeah, which one? Ivanka?
No.
Ivana?
The one
Ivana.
after Ivana.
Marla.
Marla, yeah, Marla Maples.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was an interesting conversation.
Yes.
I
But
bet.
at any rate, so we are approaching 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
But I think this has been a very interesting session. I'm very happy by the amount of participation. This is so important. On the one hand, I feel I want to get certain items out there into the discussion realm, but it's very important to get the comments of all of you. And when we think back where we started, where did we start today's meeting? We started talking about the fact that they found out that AI, that the increasing success of AI is due to getting AI to create multiple personas that will discuss with one another. And so it's really important in these meetings that we discuss. We don't take just blind that's the way things are just because one person says it. So I thank all of you for your comments today and those that have already not been able to stay with us this long. And we will try to, as I say, we're going to be working on getting out the manifesto. But I haven't had time to because so much new stuff keeps coming and coming and coming, and I got some issues because I gotta sell the house that I owned before I bought the house that I'm in right now, and we're having trouble with that, and that's creating a lot of issues because I'm having to pay for two houses and not getting the money from the first house to pay for the second house. So that's preoccupying a big chunk of my time. But we will continue to work to try to get out the information in a form to invite comment outside of the meeting so people have time to read stuff in detail and think about it and submit comments to it.
I
And
also think, Bill, that we can start to utilize maybe Telegram because you can go back and scroll through the
oh yes,
history
no,
if you were a part of it or not. But
correct.
one thing I think that's really great about these discussions, I know people don't feel like the actions are moving fast enough, but I think us being educated about the tools, and if we have a understanding of who we are and what we do, taking those tools in and then actually contributing, coming and presenting, what did you make this week? In contribution, to us moving forward, getting creative, seeing everyone's perspective kind of live and unfolding into things that we can utilize. Much like I said earlier, just as an example, if we're talking about media, we are the influencers of the influencers.
Yeah.
So if you feel as though that you are really versed in media communications or whatever it may be, start to put that Rolodex together, start to maybe generate your own graphics in regard to what we do. And then, outreach isn't too far away from that, so I think that what we've been doing, at least over the last, I'd say 3 months, has been, I think, really, really pivotal to us being contributors as a group and as a club.
Yeah, and I think here what in particular and ChatGPT, because I ask questions like okay, how do we in the discussion what is it going to take for us to be able to get down to the discussion of saying, how do we bring about a particular change? The first takes here the recognition that such a change is desirable or needed, and what's the cause of these situations that we have. We need to know that. So one of the issues is here the jobs. Because we see, and Alia, you because you participate in the Pakistani meetings here, we have a lot of people from academia in artificial intelligence, and yet we cannot get down to the discussion of how quickly might that replace jobs, even in Pakistan. People,
Yeah,
it's very extremely hard to get that. I have that problem in our Rotary Artificial Intelligence Fellowship. Everybody wants to say, okay, hey, we can teach you how you can use AI for this and for that. But to have the discussion about what dangers are on the way, they're not just potentially out there, they're on the way here because if AI reduce, if we take Xiaomi as the example, okay, 10,000 workers, one factory. How many factories are currently working right now and achieving that level of efficiency with automation? So how long before we're going to start to see massive layoffs due to AI? Or it may not be layoffs, it may just be they're not replacing people.
there's nobody really governing in Pakistan. The people that take the decisions, they're just actually ancient feudal warlords,
Mhm.
dressed up because they've had uh, expensive foreign degrees and
Mhm.
they know how to talk to you, Bill,
Yeah.
and appear normal, but they're not.
But it's not just there. Do you know in the last month, Sweden and Denmark, which were two of the leading countries in Europe that were promoting digitalization of education in schools, laptops in schools, now they're putting up massive amounts of money to de-digitize schooling education. And at the absolute worst time to do that, because of the capabilities that are out there now with AI, and where that's likely to be just within the next 12 months.
Do you think that's kickback because the educational establishment thinks it's going to be out of a job?
No, I think really it's a case that they look at where digital education was in the last couple of years. Because the problem is they tried to use digital tools to emulate the human approach to education. This is what we did with IT in general back in the 1970s and 1980s. We didn't go and see how do we automate things, really. We only tried to automate the tools that fed into the human system. And it was only when we came back and said, well, wait a minute, if we have an SOP that tells the human, if A happens, you've got to do B, why don't we just do B? Why do we need to pass the information to the human if the human's got no choice on what they're supposed to be doing in that situation? And that same thing is happening in education and with AI. And this is the reason why AI in business and a lot of companies has not achieved the kinds of returns that was hoped for, because they've been focused on using AI to replace simple work, but pass it to people that are supposed to be doing prescribed things on certain circumstances. And the human element becomes, it just slows the process down to transfer from one medium to another. But this is starting to be realized. So you're seeing more and more of the agent technology being used to automate entire processes. And some of the slides that I have are some of the slide decks now showing the evolution of AI, is pointing out that until the beginning of last year, AI could only handle about 15 minutes worth of thinking, and it would start to go off course. But now they've got examples where it's doing 15 hours of work, and they're expecting to get up to AI that could go 10 days on working on problems from all these different angles and doing every aspect that's needed. But I think here they looked at it. It's sort of like when we had COVID hit in the States, and so we had to go to online education. What did we do with the online education? We had a human sit there on the screen and give the lecture they would have given in the classroom. Why didn't we have the human be able to personalize and interact with the AI and get a personal education for them individually, rather than having that one person go out there and just do a one-way presenting to 30 people? Okay, so it's yes, are the educators going to lose the jobs they have now? Absolutely. I don't think anybody doubts that there's no value of trying to have an educator do instruction. Maybe get the best educator to do instruction and make that instruction available to everybody. But even if we got the best educator and they made a tutorial and it's just a one-way tutorial, that's one thing. But we're on the cusp of being able to make every tutorial bidirectional. If I can go now and interrupt the Notebook LM podcast and ask it questions and get the answers relative to some topic, I'm very close. They're talking about YouTube videos, that they're very close to where you will be able to basically interrupt almost any YouTube video and ask it questions about whatever that YouTube video was talking about and get answers. So just imagine when that kind of stuff comes. But as I say, I think they said in Denmark and Sweden okay, we invested all this stuff here, and we just gave people all these computers, these laptops and stuff, but nothing happened. Well, nothing happened because you never taught the people how to use the stuff. And you never really took advantage of the capabilities of the stuff. But they picked the absolute worst time because if by the end of this year that we have that fully automated education that we're seeing in things like the Austin School or the Squirrel Schools in China, um, they're going to have to reverse course again, or they're just going to be left in the dust. And which is potentially an issue because Europe has sort of taken the attitude to try to go and educate everybody to the idea AI is bad. AI is bad. AI reduces human interaction. It does. But like Yuval Harari says, the problem is that AI is generally a better human than humans because it has learned to serve humans the way the best humans would serve other humans, which is better than what the average human serves other humans. Anyway, guys, um, I think it's been an interesting discussion. I hope this time my recording.
Bill,
Yes,
Bill,
yes,
I'd be very interested in following the Sweden example because I think it will give some good insight. One advantage I think they have is they've got the resources. So if it comes to course correcting, they can easily course correct, as opposed to if they were borrowing that money, because then the bank would say, no, we're not going to give you any more money. But it does also then bring in the fact that there is the human element, because who will want to admit that they're wrong? You know, which government is going to fall for saying we decided to course correct and we were wrong? And so somebody has to take the blame, usually maybe a government falling. But it may come up with some good insight around the human element around managing change. We were doing this, we're probably not doing it the right way. We course corrected. Are we humble enough to admit that the course correction came at the wrong time and we can correct again? Or do we go the way of the dinosaurs and just stick with our error and go into oblivion?
yeah.
So it will be interesting to see,
It's
I mean,
gonna it's gonna be
I think at the end of the day, it's human nature, so,
yeah.
so maybe there'll be a good novel written by AI about how humans think.
Yeah, I think here because my family is the bulk of my family is originally from Denmark, or the closest my closest ancestors. My grandfather was born in Jutland, and so that's the branch of the family we've been closest to over the years, and they really used to pride themselves, the Scandinavians, on how advanced they were on a lot of education things. And I think here that what's going to happen is it'll take a couple of years because until there's a couple of test results that show that those countries have declined relative in education output through the PISA exams, for example, from OECD. And then that's going to force the change because you're going to end up with a minister of education saying, I've got to do something to stop the relative decline of those countries relative to countries that have embraced automation, which right now, Estonia and Finland, for example, are two countries that um, they're not necessarily so much that they're embracing automation, but they've embraced the idea of personalized education, and that ties into AI. Guys, I unfortunately I gotta run. I'm getting messages here from through the door that my time is up. And but I enjoyed this session here, and I will do my best to send out. I'm thinking, if nothing else, maybe I can send out some of our papers as Google Docs and give everybody commenting privileges so we can actually create threaded discussions on any of the aspects of the paper. That might be the simplest thing. There are tools like Notion and others that could be very good for what we're trying to do. The problem is they get very expensive when you have a group. I don't want to put, because we got a lot of members in different parts of the world where that becomes a problem. And so we'll keep everybody up to date. Make sure you're on the Dare to Be Great Emerging Technologies group and on the Dare to Be Great eClub WhatsApp group, those two WhatsApp group. And we also have, for the Dare to Be Great eClub, we have a Telegram group as well. And the Jarek is very correct in the point that if you're trying to do a committee or something like that, that is very advantageous, because if you join a WhatsApp group, you can only see messages that were posted after you joined. Whereas in Telegram, you can make the messages permanent so that if somebody comes in, they can see what the discussion has been up until when they joined. So we'll
Perhaps we should do that for these working documents. Just inform everyone on WhatsApp, to get on Telegram. That way we can reference along the way, no matter if someone's new to join.
Yeah, and we can make in that link, it will actually give them the ability to just click and join.
Post the links. I know I'm on one of the Dare to Be Great groups, but could you post a link so that I can join the second WhatsApp group and then the Telegram as well?
Okay, I'll tell you what, I will. I'm going to put that in the. I'll put that in the. Yeah, I'll put in each of the groups that are two main Dare to Be Great groups. I'll put the links to join the other groups.
Kindly, yeah. It'd be great to keep up with the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, and have a great week. And be checking your messages to see for the links of what we're going to post to give us that opportunity to communicate more asynchronously as well during the week. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.